people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
Matt Williams got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid.
He's gone, he's hit him, he's straight off at the chase.
A half-second lead on with the sizzling car in the background.
He has it. Oh, he's round. He's round on the last lap.
There's a massive accident.
Next to the inside, what a move. What a move.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the final round of the AMS Oz WEC Championship Series. It's Remembrance Day in this part of the woods in Australia, and what a fitting final race we have. It's in our own backyard, Melbourne, Australia, the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit, and we're going to get set for 90 minutes as championship drivers will go to battle for one last time in the endurance season, not only for this season, but for 2018. We'll take a rest after this and we'll be back next season with another series of races. But more on that in a moment. It's Nether here heading up the ARW TV commentary on behalf of Short Shift Podcast and AMS Oz. And for the final time in 2018 in the Endurance Series, he's not well, unfortunately, at the moment, but he's here nonetheless. Bagsy, good evening. I understand that you're having a little bit of trouble on the health front at the moment, but you've somehow managed to drag yourself up, and you're still going to be here today.
Yeah, just going to be here, being a bit quiet in the background, checking up all the pit stops and stuff, just being a less strenuous roving pit lane report.
Well, nonetheless, mate, your insights are always appreciated, and glad to see you here. But we've organised someone who's raced in this series before to occupy your usual spot in the booth, and he's the usual lead commentator on several series here in AMS Oz. It's Stairs. G'day, Stairs.
Thank you, Nether. Good to be here. A bit of a different role in a secondary role for me, but nonetheless, looking forward to two championship deciders tonight. Absolutely. A little bit of a role reversal. It's usually you yourself, the lead. I'm in the secondary when we do Super Series. But no, a little bit of a role reversal for a change. But let's take a look at this track, because it's hard to believe that this place has hosted just over 20-odd years' worth of Formula One races. And here we are racing an Endurance Series race for pretty much the first time. Yeah, I think some of these guys who will have done F1 and some of the other series that this track has been the venue for will know it fairly well, and of course being the venue since 1996 for the Australian Grand Prix. 5.3 kilometres in length, the circuit, 16 turns, a street circuit, but not your traditional type of street circuit. Lots of very fast corners, especially that turns 11, 12 complex, which can set you up for a pass down into turns 13, 14, that sort of thing, clockwise in direction. And, of course, as always for this series, tyre and fuel set at ×2. Absolutely. Well, with that race information, and not only thanks to Lewis Wedding for this, but also thanks to Kenny Loggins, we're going to take a quick look at the danger zones around this 5.3 kilometre layout. So, similar to what we had with Shanghai a couple of, well, actually last weekend, it wasn't all that long ago, there are a few danger zones here. Now, you'll note that there's no yellow on the map, so therefore LMP2 class cars are not allowed to lap around the outside of any cars, because literally there is no opportunity for it to happen here. But you can see there's a few sections down around the turn 4-5 area there, Hellies and Whiteford, where it's gone red, which means there's no lapping to be undertaken in that spot at all. The very tight little section there. Then there's the fast leftover right chicane at Sector 2 on the back part of the circuit there between Waite and Hill, that you can see is red as well. And then Stewart Corner and Prost Corner, the second, or the last and the third last corners on the circuit. There's no lapping there either. So that's purely from a safety point of view. We'll be expecting the LMP2 cars to hold their line just for a little bit while they navigate those sections and then set themselves up for either a pass into the second last turn or down the front straight. So a little bit of safety sake just from some of the items we've seen in the previous events. Now returning to the points situation, and this is where it starts to get interesting. We'll have a look at the points first, and then we'll start getting into the championship scenarios, because it's very, very tight. Both titles to be decided tonight. Well, there's your two in LMP2. It's down to Nangle and Sam Smith. They're separated by 4 points. Ozrob pretty much safe in third place with 28.
Cam Costa not taking part any further. Andy Simpson too far back to challenge Ozrob for third place, but he can certainly move up the standings into fourth, and the remainder there not taking part. In GT3, it's a little bit different. Foley is 117, Lewis Wedding 100 points. It's down to those two. Boak back there in third. He's racing again for the first time in a couple of races tonight. Good to see him there. And then 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th there on your screen. Brock Harvey still in the midst of a fight for best of the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th place guys. So that points will go down to the wire for the remainder of the 90 minutes ahead of us. Well, Stairs, let's have a quick look at the LMP2 Championship scenarios, because there's a couple of different ways that this could go.
Yes, there most certainly is. And, of course, it's a bit of an embarrassment of riches for us today, because we have both championships up for grabs today. So as far as the LMP2 Championship goes, Greg Nangle is in the box seat, but if he doesn't finish first or second, it's up to what Sam Smith does. So if Greg Nangle wins the race or comes second, no matter what Sam Smith does, he will win the championship. Sam Smith, if he wins and Greg Nangle finishes third or worse, Sam will win the championship. If Sam Smith finishes second and Greg Nangle finishes sixth or worse, Sam Smith will win the championship. Not sure if we've actually got 6 runners in LMP2 tonight, but nonetheless, these are the permutations. And if Sam Smith finishes third, then Greg Nangle finishes 8th or worse, Sam will win the championship. And then if Sam finishes 4th, then Greg Nangle has to fail to finish for Sam to become the championship. So we'll keep everyone updated on that front, no matter what the situation in the race, because no doubt it won't be as simple as we expect it to be. But that is the LMP2. That is how the LMP2 Championship sits at the moment. Now, as far as the GT3 Championship, and just bear with me for a moment while I get that one in front of me, because it's not coming up. But the GT3 Championship, of course, between Lewis Wedding and Brenton Foley. Now, Brenton Foley is the one who is in the catbird seat for that one. He has a 17-point lead, and if he finishes 7th or better, he wins the GT3 Championship, even if Lewis Wedding were to win the race. Now, if Lewis Wedding wins the race and Brenton Foley finishes 8th or worse, Lewis Wedding will win the championship. Or if Lewis Wedding finishes 2nd and Brenton Foley finishes 14th or worse, then Lewis Wedding will win the championship. So we know it's a long race and retirements can happen, and basically Lewis just has to get up the front there and get as many points as he possibly can. That's exactly right. He's got a mountain to climb, Lewis, because he's pretty much in a win or bust scenario. He's got to maximise the amount of points. The only way he's going to do that is by winning, and he's got a pretty formidable record in GT competition. If he doesn't win the races, he doesn't finish them. So it's basically win or come hell or high water for him. That's right. And the interesting scenario would also be if they were to tie on points, because Lewis Wedding has had a very binary season. He's either won the race or not finished. And as such, he has more wins than Brenton Foley. Foley just has the 1 win, whereas Lewis Wedding has 4 wins. And, of course, if it were to go back to a count back, then that would be Lewis Wedding who would favour in that scenario. Yes, and it's a similar situation in the LMP2 class as well, because there's a possibility those guys could wind up in a count-back scenario, ending up tied on points if Sam was to finish first and Greg was to finish, I believe, in third. They would end up tied on points, but then it would then go back to the man who has the most wins, and then that would tend to favour Sam, because he would end up with 4 wins to Greg's 3. At the moment, they're currently sitting at 3 apiece, I believe. So there's a couple of different scenarios. They could also wind up in ties for points, and there's a situation we're looking at right now that they've both did not finish a race. They've both finished second in one race, and there's a possibility they also both missed the very big first race. So there's a possibility that they could wind up tied on 2 or 3 different scenarios here. Well, one thing that I want to highlight, and it may not come to the fore, but it will be a very interesting scenario if it does happen. is that if Sam Smith were to finish second and Greg Nagle finishes fifth, the countback will be very interesting indeed, because they would both be on 3 wins. They'd both be on 2 second-place finishes, and then the next best result for both of them, it would be 5th place, followed by a DNF. So the countback would be inconclusive, and then we'd have to choose something else, perhaps pole positions or fastest laps, to decide that championship, in which case it would go to Greg Nagle, but it hasn't been discussed. So that would be a controversial situation if it were to occur.
Well, I think we might avoid the controversial situation for the minute, because we've only got 4 LMP runners, unless we get a late entrant. I think we'll... It's highly unlikely. The bulk of the field is in GT, so that's where it becomes a really interesting bit, because we know Foley's had a little bit of a struggle at Shanghai last weekend, but hopefully he's up for the fight tonight. Well, what I'm going to do now, and this is a little bit of news for everybody, GT and LMP2 fans who follow the Endurance Series broadcast, and I want to bring Bags in on this, because this is the official provisional calendar for next season. So here it is in its entirety. I'm going to run through it just so you have a rough idea of what's happening here. So same sort of situation. We have legs in both Europe, in Asia and in the United States. It's gone to a 9-race calendar instead of 8, so we've got 3 in each location, but the season will start off with the 2004 layout of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, so that is the circuit that does not have the final chicane, just to get a little bit better run through with the GT and the LMP2 cars, maximising speed onto the front straight. Then the second race is going to be a redemption round for a number of people, because it's Monza. Monza, the only circuit to be retained from this year's calendar into the new season. Then comes the big one, the first of our 2-hour events. It's Le Mans. We're going to go 2 hours at Le Mans. I'm wondering how that's going to go. It'll be a very, very interesting race nonetheless. Then we get into our Asia Pacific leg. So we've got Suzuka returning to the calendar, having a 1-race absence for this particular season. Then we go to Malaysia, Sepang, one of Stair's favourite circuits actually is the Sepang International Circuit. Then we've got...
Very good viewing circuit in real life.
It is. And then we've got Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi, and that's a 2-hour, and not only is it a 2-hour, but at this stage it's set to be a twilight event as well, without the need for headlights, the circuit being a well floodlit circuit. Then we get into the American leg. We've got a 90-minute run around the Circuit of the Americas, a quick jump down to the south into Interlagos for another 90 minutes, and then back to Road America, making another appearance on the calendar for the third and final race in the America Series, and that is also a 2-hour event. So you'll note that the 2-hour events are the 3rd, 6th and 9th events, the last events in each of the 3 legs of this endurance season. Dates still yet to be decided, but it certainly looks like a tasty calendar. Bagsy, what are your initial thoughts on that for a calendar?
It's certainly a pretty good calendar. It's nice to see that we've standardised when the 2-hour events are going to be. This season, they're all sort of sprinkled around like a little bit of parmesan on the season, whereas now they're at very set intervals, like layers in a cake, which is very nice. But standout circuit for me is Suzuka. It's one of the best circuits in the world, and I think that'll produce some excellent endurance racing. And Road America as well. I'm looking forward to that one. Season finale for the next season, so that'll be quite good to see. That's a good circuit.
Absolutely. Stairs?
When they had the GT3 race, which I was in the before we added LMP2 to the endurance roster, the Suzuka race was pretty good. But just want to bring your attention to qualifying, because the cars have just been given the green light, and Sam Smith, eager to get that championship. He's on the back foot, but he's the first man onto the racetrack. Well,
we will go there right now just to bring you up to speed as to what's going on. So they are out on the circuit, and the green light has been shown. We're just 25 seconds in at the moment. Just watching Luke Emerton here. So he's picked up Roadhog's Hot Wheels car by the looks of things, which is formerly the Coriot Racing entry. Good to see Luke back in the field. He's only raced a couple of races, so he's negotiating turns 4 and 5 at the moment. But let's see if we can pick up Sam Smith. He's the first man out. We're just cycling through the field here. Well, here he is in the TSR. Again,
so crucially, with Luke Emerton in that means there is now 5 cars in LMP2, so that scenario I highlighted earlier on is possible.
Yes, you are correct. He's
got some quick operators, Andy Simpson in there as well. He's going to be very hard to beat.
Yeah, he's going to be one that I think could potentially spoil the party tonight. Sam and Lewis are both in win or bust scenarios. They've got to bust out as many points as they can, and to do that, they want to be on top step of the podium. But we know Andy Simpson is an absolute jet, especially in these cars. And we've seen it in Super Series as well. We've seen it in Porsche Cup. He really knows how to get the best out of a car. He's been beset by a few issues with regards to technical issues, also getting tangled up in some back markers at some points as well. But when he's on, he's absolutely on.
Four men in the pits still. Everyone else out onto the racetrack. Ozrob, Greg Nangle, Lewis Wedding, and Matt Williams, the only men yet to venture out onto the racetrack. So interestingly enough, two of the championship contenders, both in different classes, of course. Greg Nangle, who's now made it onto the racetrack now, and Lewis Wedding, who always likes to wait before setting his qualifying lap, finding himself the biggest gap he possibly can, which is very, very tricky in these cars because it's so hard to judge with the GT3 traffic and LMP2 traffic where the gaps are.
And what makes it worse too is that being a street circuit or a hybrid street circuit, as you alluded to earlier, Stairs, there is the potential where getting caught behind traffic at precisely the wrong moments could ruin your lap very, very quickly. And the circuit's not exactly as wide as the likes of Sepang and co, so passing is not exactly easy at a place like this.
No, you mentioned before the red zones where the drivers are not allowed to pass, and it's cost you so much time. The rules with this series forbid the LMP2 drivers from overtaking in certain parts, and you've just got to wait. And that is the rule. That is what they basically is drilled into them in the drivers' briefing. Some of them probably take more liberties than others through that, but you lose so much time because the moment you back off even a little bit in these cars, you lose a second just in one corner so easily.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, Sam's been a bit lucky. He's had a GT runner ahead of him, but he's been far enough ahead. Actually, in fact, it's Greg Nangle that's ahead of him by the looks of things. We thought it might have been a GT runner for a while, but nonetheless, it's not been the best lap for Sam. He's put a few tyres onto some of the grass, a bit scruffy, but he's going to set the benchmark initially at a 140.323, so that's the benchmark for him to chase. Andy Simpson just behind Sam on track. Let's see what he comes up with. In actual fact, he hasn't registered the time there.
Yeah. Well, it's either his outlap or a...
I think he got a track cut because he was behind Sam on the road when Sam crossed the line to begin the lap. So I got a funny feeling he may have taken a little bit too much track or run off the area a bit too early. But Luke Emerton, the next man to set a time, he's some 8 seconds adrift, but he's hardly had any practice too. So he's got plenty of time to find in that Lola.
It reminds me of Ozrob back in round 1 when the series visited the Roval at Daytona, and Ozrob had barely had any practice. He's gone from strength to strength since then. He hasn't got a win, but he had some fairly strong results and was unlucky last week to DNF out of second place.
He certainly is. Well, speaking of luck, this man has made his own luck by virtue of finishing pretty much every race on the calendar, and didn't have it his own way in the last in the last little bit. So at Shanghai, he ended up with what was a second place finish after it looked like he was going to be, well down the order, with Lewis Wedding inheriting the win from a sure win from Matt Williams, and then Fuji finished 6th, and he's managed to string a couple of decent results together, Brenton Foley, but he's certainly got the upper hand at the moment on Lewis Wedding. All he's got to do is trail him home by a place or two, and he'll be fine. But that's not the kind of race that he is, as he takes to the escape, or actually to the gravel trap off the exit of the very fast chicane as well. He's set a 151.
Couple of quick laps coming in. Nangle just surpassed Smith by the barest of margins, and Andy Simpson's gone quicker than them both by half a second.
Yeah, he has. He's up to a 39.7, so already under the minute 40 bracket, and the championship protagonists 2nd and 3rd, and separated by not very much at the moment. We are yet to see.
As well.
Yep, we're yet to see Ozrob set himself a time, but we're looking down the list to see if we can find him.
Jamie Snow goes to the top in GT3, and that's quick, just a tenth of a second, 2/10 of a second or 0.3 of a second, I should say, separating the top 3 in GT3, Snow, Foley, and Bogue, and Bolger goes to the top. Yeah,
Bolger's making a return to GT racing. The last time I believe that we saw Steve Bolger might have been around the Fuji event, actually. So he ran Spa, Silverstone and Fuji. We haven't seen him since then, so good to see him back in the saddle, occupying the car formerly run by Matt Webb in Blue Sim Sport.
He was doing a good job for them, collecting a few points, and he's gone from strength to strength. I think he's been fairly successful in a few other series, including the Rookie Cup, which, if I'm not mistaken, there's a championship decider for that one tomorrow.
There is the title tomorrow. Matt Schwass back in the BMW as well. His last appearance was at Fuji, where he had a 10th place finish and missing the Shanghai round. Back in the car for one last tour on this particular season as well. He's currently 16th, but he hasn't really set a representative time. Actually, to 2:15.9 is well off the pace, but I expect that will pick up very, very soon. Looking through the rest of the field as well. Well, getting up to the top of GT3, we're talking about Steve Bolger having gone to the top, which is quite a surprise. Good to see a different campaigner up the front. And you'll note that a number of the cars are actually running some tribute liveries to Remembrance Day as well. And we'd like to thank the guys who have put in the effort to make some really nice looking liveries as well. Here's Lewis Wedding. Him and Steve Bolger are sharing some beautiful liveried cars at the moment. We'll go through the mentions a bit later on during the broadcast as well, but congrats guys, and thanks for getting behind this initiative as well. It's complementing rather nicely with the little thing that we'll have coming up for you shortly, and also the little ARW TV watermark with the poppy in the top right hand corner of your broadcast screen that you can see right now as well.
Yep, 100 years since the end of World War I, so obviously remarking to get my sentence out, what's the bloody word? Can't think of it. We're commemorating. Took me a while, but yeah, great job from everyone who's put in the hours to get those liveries in.
Absolutely. Well, this is a man, as you said before, Steve, who's getting a little bit quicker, and he's gone from strength to strength, Rob. So he's out on his first flying lap at the moment, coming around the back part of the circuit down to Sector 2. He's only 0.6 of a second away, or 6.5 of a second away from the top time, so that's good enough for the second row at the moment. As Greg Nangle bumps in a great time as well, and he gets himself nearly a half second clear of Sam Smith as well. Actually, he has got himself a half second clear of Sam Smith, and 0.07 of a second away from Simpson's time, so that's come very, very quickly. So Sam will have to respond to that. And,
yeah, Sam needs a bit of luck tonight. I fear Greg Nangle's been unbeatable since he got on that winning streak. 3 on the trot after Sam won 3 on the trot. And it has to be said, Sam had a little bit of luck in there, but he also had a bit of bad luck with the retirement with the engine failure in Fuji.
Rob just losing out a little bit of time there in the final sector, having got caught behind the Bentley Continental of Wedding there. Just through that last sector. So as you said before, Steve, you can't overtake in some of these slower sectors where they've been highlighted red on our danger map from before, and when you can't do that, you get punished in terms of lap time, and that's just exactly what happened to Rob. He's gone from 0.6 of a second down at the second sector split to 1.6 down at the line.
And that's why I'm not surprised to have seen Sam Smith take to the track straight away, because it may well be your best opportunity to get a decent lap in, because the track is clear if you can manage to get to the front of the pit exit before anyone else. That's what my strategy always was. Didn't always work because I often stuffed up my first lap, but you may not get another opportunity quite like that unless you're lucky.
2.5 down at the second sector split. Sam Smith gets the pass done on the little Lotus that could down into the bottom end of the circuit. He's up on his PB as well, so set to...
Nangle's improved though, the goalposts have moved significantly.
He's gone to the top here, Greg Nangle, so he's actually gotten a better part of 0.3 of a second clear of Andy Simpson at the top. Sam responding...
That crucially put Simpson between them, so Sam really wants to get ahead of Andy Simpson, if not Greg Nangle with this lap. What can he do?
Lowers his time, but not by enough. He's still 6.5 away, and still nearly 3.5 away from Andy Simpson. So he's got to go again here, but he's got GT traffic. It's in the form of Jaden Draper, I believe, that is ahead of him.
And catch at the worst possible time as well. This is one of the red zones we're coming up to.
Yep. Well, Draper's gone deep, and this is there's no overtaking through here. This is the problem for Sam, so he's going to have to back out of this.
Yeah.
He won't get a clean lap here.
Lap's gone.
That lap is gone. So bad luck, and this is the what we spoke about just a few seconds ago. The most inopportune times.
Oh.
Yeah, he got the job done into what was known as the primary braking zone. Then you've got to see how much time he lost. He lost a second of his own PB. So yeah, that lap is ruined.
But it's also awkward for Draper there because he was trying to turn in and there was an LMP2 car there. It may not have impeded him. The thing with some of these cars is that the GT3 cars, because their top speed isn't as high as the LMP2 cars, then in some parts of the track, weirdly, they can outbrake the LMP2 cars. But that was a bit of a strange... Personally, if I was Sam, I probably would have waited till the straight to just blast past him with the acceleration, the superior acceleration of that LMP2 car.
Yeah, he's slowing down at the moment, just trying to get himself sorted out for another lap, just to make sure he doesn't have any traffic. I mean, the last thing he wants is for traffic to come out of the pits as well. With only 3 minutes left on the clock, most of the field has set representative lap times now, which is good. Matt Schwass, who was
still there.
Yeah, Boulder's still at the top. Matt Schwass, who was down the back of the field at one point, has set himself a respective time as well. And Turra and Draper, the only two men yet to set a time, although we expect Draper's...
up in 6th.
Turra's
just gone
just gone up to the top ahead of Boulder. So great job. And now it's Jaden Draper just sets his first time as well. That's good enough for 11th overall and 6th in class for his first flying lap. So yeah, Greg Turra straight to the top.
Yeah, great job from him. And Steve Bolger, he's really, really improved quite a bit. Jamie Snow there in 3rd place. Lewis Wedding goes to the top of GT3. That's what he needs. He's put a lot of cars between himself and Foley. Foley's down there 6 positions behind him in 12th outright. And that is going to make the championship thing very interesting because Foley is, if he improved by even a couple of tenths, that'll give him a decent return on his investment.
Well, look who's behind him, though, Stairs. Look who's behind him. He's got Matt Williams, not that far behind, and then behind him, it's actually just dropping down the field as was Foley, was Boak as well. And Boak, what's happened to Boak? I think he might have just dropped off our map for a second.
He's about to improve, though. He's up by 6 tenths on his best lap, and that will net him quite a few places and put him back in position for this championship.
Yeah, I think we may have just lost Phil Boak from the server for a moment, but Matt Williams not that far behind Foley as well, and with a tenth or two here, and then put Foley a bit further back. And this is the trouble with GT, because there's so many cars as well, you can lose spots very, very quickly. And there's already a few people up the top end of the field in GT that we're not really expecting to be there, as Foley goes 7th. So that's a much better return. So 7th overall, that's front row with Lewis Wedding. So that's where he...
gap to Lewis, but he'll be happy with that.
Yeah, but that's where he needs to be. He needs to be up the pointy end of the GT field and out of danger.
Yeah, he's had a few scrappy races as Bretton Foley, but he's managed to score points in every single race. He's basically been on the podium, or he's had battles. Fuji was an example of a race, his second but worst result together with Sebring, 6th and 7th place in those races. But 4 podiums throughout the course of the season, and 3 of those second place finishes, and that's what's put him in such a strong position in this championship.
Absolutely. Well, final 20 seconds of qualifying. Lewis Wedding skates across the grass at turns 1 and 2, so I don't think he'll be setting another time. Yeah, he's pulling up the inside. I think he knows that lap is gone. Let's see who's on the track and who's doing big things in the minute. The top 2, the title protagonists in LMP, are in the pits. So Andy Simpson...
Smith.
Yeah, Andy Simpson and Ozrob, the only 2 who can improve, and they're line astern on track. It's Ozrob ahead.
So we missed that Smith jumping up ahead of Simpson. So he's put in a stocking lap to get up there. Simpson's aborted his lap, so he's done. And
he wasn't that far away from Nangle's time either, so he was less than, just over about a tenth and a half away. Ozrob's up on the PB here, and he's crucially less than a tenth of a second off the top time. So if he can hook this final sector up, he's going to throw his hat in a ring to disrupt the top 2 at the moment. And Andy Simpson, he's dropped a bit further back from... Ozrob at the minute, so actually he's aborted, so Simpson's aborted, so the only man who can improve is Ozrob. How does he go in this final sector? I've been talking him up that he's doing quite well in the last few races, and to the line, clock is counting down, and he goes P3. He goes P3 by less than a tenth of a second to Sam Smith. That is really close for coming. And he's leapfrogged Andy Simpson. Have a look at that. Second, third and fourth, separated by less than 2/10. My goodness, that is a very, very close finish to qualifying in. Oh, yeah.
He'll cover the top 4 with it. 3/10 of a second. Now that we are in for an absolute stonker.
Absolutely.
In LMP2 for this championship deciding race.
Oh, yeah.
Luke Emerton has improved quite significantly there. 4/10 off his PB. Still 5 seconds adrift, but obviously finding some returns, having not put in the practice.
Late mover, Jaden Draper up to 7th. Draper displaces Foley. So very, very interesting there. So Foley comes down 1 row, so he'll be, well, effectively Emerton and Wedding will share a row because of the odd number of cars. But Draper and Foley will be alongside each other too, and then you've got a whole gaggle of cars behind them.
And we haven't seen Philip Oak rejoin the server as yet, so he'll probably slot back in there if he can manage to rejoin before the server switches over to the warm-up session. If not, then I suspect he may be starting from the back, or actually depending on the way that it works, it may well give him his position, but he has to join before the race starts.
Yeah, he certainly will. He'll be able to get back in with qualifying being a locked session, and he'll be able to get back in during the warm-up as well. So, well, let's take stock, gentlemen, because that was one hell of a last flurry to the qualifying session, and very hotly contested between 2nd, 3rd and 4th in LMP2. But take nothing away from the GT guys as well. They're really laying it all on the line at the moment, and that's, I don't think anybody on their day, if they can hook up a couple of decent laps, there's going to be plenty of movers and shakers in this 90 minutes ahead of us.
Oh, yeah, and Jaden Draper, he was probably the surprise package right at the end for us. He hasn't finished a race in this particular championship. He's competed in 4 of them, got DSQ'd from 2nd round, but 3 DNFs, and he'll be looking to improve on that. And 2nd place is a pretty good base to start from.
Absolutely. Well, we're just going to step away from qualifying and the warm-up for a moment, because as we alluded to a little bit earlier in the broadcast, it is Remembrance Day here in Australia, and it is the 100th anniversary of what was ultimately a 4.5-year war. So just a little bit of a spiel, and while we have this little bit of a spiel, I'm going to put up a series of images. Now, these are images from, to avoid copyright, they're images from my personal collection, from visits to the War Memorial, and the fortunate enough visit that I had when I was over for the 100th anniversary of Anzac Day in Gallipoli in 2015. So some of these images are quite moving when you take a look at them, but please bear with me, as this is something that's quite close to my heart, having had family members that have been involved in military service at some point in time. The precursor to the commencement of World War I was the assassination in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, of the heir presumptive to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He was assassinated by Gavlo Princip, a Bosnian Serb Yugoslav nationalist. This in turn led to a month-long diplomatic crisis with Russia, France and Britain in one corner, and Germany, Italy and Austria-Hungary in the other. With Russia supporting Serbia and Serbia failing to meet Austria-Hungary's intentional, unacceptable demands, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on the 28th of July 1914, and over the next few days forces became mobilised in several parts of Europe, and other formal declarations of war followed, which instigated a war that would stretch on for almost 4.5 years. Australia's first foray into World War I was the successful campaign to seize German New Guinea in the Pacific in September 1914, well before the Australian Imperial Force was preparing for a landing on the Gallipoli Peninsula, with the Ottoman Empire of Turkey having been carried out a surprise attack on Russia toward the end of October 1914, and Russia having declared war on Turkey less than a week later. In what would ultimately become a failed campaign, the landing on the peninsula on April 25, 1915 did not go according to plan, with the landing boats drifting about 2 kilometres further north than expected, and the AIF being met by an impossible task to make inroads, further hampered by Turkish troops occupying the high ground on the towering range above the beach. By August 29th, it was determined that the fight to occupy the peninsula would never result in victory, and as a result an evacuation of troops from the peninsula commenced from December 7th to 20th without a single casualty in what was ultimately the most successful part of the Anzac's entire time on Turkish soil. With forces having regrouped, many of those evacuated saw further service in other conflict zones in Europe, but primarily the trench warfare on the Western Front in France, with battles including that of the Somme, Fromelles, Bullecourt and Pozières. The collapse of the Central Powers came quickly to end the war, with Bulgaria signing the first armistice on September the 29th, 1918. Other countries followed quickly, with Germany the last country to sign on November the 11th, 1918 at 11 a.m, hence the reason why we pause on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month every year since. Australia, a country of less than 5 million people at the time that war broke out, almost had 417,000 enlisted, with 60,000 killed, 156 wounded, gassed or taken prisoner by the time the war was over. So, on this 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, we not only pay our respects to those who gave their today for our tomorrow, but we also pay our respects to all Australian soldiers in all wars who have done the same, and to those on active service who continue to do so to this day. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn, but at the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget, and let us continue to remember all the sacrifices that our soldiers, past, present and future, will continue to provide for this great nation.
Well said, Nether. Honour the soldiers and despise the wars that necessitate them.
Absolutely. Well, it's also hard to imagine too, Stairs, that there's always talk about war also being so close to our doorstep in the not too distant future as well, with potentially wars happening in the Pacific as well, potentially China and the US and those sorts of countries getting involved in conflicts in the last couple of years, but not ultimately resulting in war. But it makes you wonder about if or when there would be another.
Yeah, well, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, so we thank the soldiers, of course, because it means that we can do things like this, and race, and the battles stay on track instead of out in the war zones.
That's absolutely right, and that's probably the best thing I think that we could have said tonight, is that despite the fact that plenty of soldiers go to war and fight for the things that we take for granted, it allows us to do things such as precisely what we're doing tonight, and that is having ourselves a race.
Yeah, so looking pretty good for the incumbent championship leaders, with Brenton Foley in third place on the grid for GT3, and just the annoying BMW of Jaden Draper between himself and his nearest championship rival Lewis Wedding, and Sam Smith. He'll be at least happy that he's ahead of anyone else in LMP2, but the one in front of him is Greg Nangle, and he needs to get some points back on him if he is to have any chance of winning the LMP2 championship.
That's exactly right, and it's interesting to point out, like you were talking about the incumbent champion. So Nangle, having been a champion in Formula 3, the defunct Formula 3 series now, looking for his second title. Then you've got Lewis Wedding looking for his second title, being the reigning GT3 champion from the previous season. And then you've also got Brenton Foley looking for his second title as well, having been the Season 1 TCC champion as well. So a couple of guys looking for their second championships, but then you've got Sam Smith looking for his first as well.
Yeah, first for Sam Smith, and Foley also the incumbent, the champion elect in Super 2 with an unassailable lead in that championship. Just want to bring your attention to, we've got some vehicle collision mismatches happening in the server, which obviously you won't be able to see given you're the broadcaster. But Jaden Draper with the series and vehicle mismatch may mean that he won't take the start unless he can get that issue rectified in the next 5.5 minutes. But also Brenton Foley removed from the game with a message saying that duplicate vehicles are not allowed in this server. Now, I'm not sure why that is coming up for him, because everyone has their own bespoke vehicles. It seems like there may well be some action on that front, getting it sorted out. Lewis Wedding has just become an administrator in this server, so hopefully they're on top of the situation and they can fix that before we get the race underway.
Yeah, it's a rather bizarre scenario because, as you said, Stez, they've all got their own custom livery, so it's not as if they're in duplicate vehicles to begin with. Each vehicle with its own livery is its own vehicle. There's nothing, no collisions or that about it. I mean, the only thing that could potentially happen is if they've got a file that says it's one car when in fact it's meant to be another. So I highly doubt that there's been a mismatch or two, or that it's just something abnormal that they're presently rectifying and working out. So we don't want to be deprived of what could ultimately be a great championship battle, because in terms of the championship, with Foley, we know that he's got Lewis Wedding hot on his tail for this as well. But then Phil Boak's currently set up in third place at the minute, and he's not exactly impervious to the guys behind, because Matt Schwass, Brock Harvey and co, they can all leapfrog him. And if they were to get a win tonight, or even Jamie Snow, if they were even to get a win tonight, they could potentially jump him if Boak fails to finish.
Yeah, Matt Schwass can. Actually, it would be very mighty close, actually, because if Matt Schwass got a win, he'd be equal on points with what Phil Boak's on now. And Phil Boak has a win in Monza, so it would go to countback, which he would win by virtue of 2 third-place finishes to Matt Schwass's one. But Jamie Snow can certainly overhaul his advantage. If he were to win, he'd be 2 points clear of Phil Boak if Phil Boak were not to score tonight.
But then you look at
Phil Boak could potentially overtake Lewis Wedding if Lewis Wedding has a bad night.
That's right. And then you look at, we've got here Jamie Snow, Matt Schwass, Brock Harvey, Brendan Ross. They're all separated by 4 points. And you can probably throw Matt Williams into that equation too. So he's another 5 points further back of Brendan Ross. So then you've actually really got 5 guys separated by 9 points. It's 3 Pro A runners and 2 Pro B runners. And all those positions could potentially change hands tonight.
And if the race was 10 minutes shorter last week, then Matt Williams would be ahead of that lot. He'd be sitting pretty, actually, in 4th place because he was leading that race. And just a bit of luck. I can't think of a more unlucky way to finish, to lose a win, apart from, if your name's Brenton Hobson.
Well, Bagsy's currently down in the driver's briefing, just getting the word on what's going on down there. But in the meantime, actually, he's just returned. So, Bagsy, fill us in on what you know. What's going on at the moment in the driver's briefing, but not only that, with the guys who are having some trouble at the moment.
So the driver's briefing, some of the things that we've already gone over before, the danger zone, the stuff where you can and cannot pass. The safety car, as always in AMS Oz, can be, or in AMS specifically, can be a little finicky and can go quite slow in the corners, so there's some warnings about that. You may see no overtaking for the safety line is another one. The start-finish line, rather, was one of the things that was really drummed into them. You might see them also in the penultimate corner, because it's such a tight corner. As they come to the race start, might not be too wide, but they'll form up before the actual flag drops, and then they'll go. So there's some of the bigger things. It does look like we have a couple of people dropping in and out, but it should be all good. I think a lot of people are just dropping in and out to make sure their game's not going to have any issues with the long run.
Bit of a word on strategy. We're hearing down on the ground from Brock Harvey that if there is a safety car, then he can one-stop. So that might put him in a strong position, and could throw a cat amongst the worms, or the pigeons, I should say, if something like that were to occur.
Well, that'll be interesting, because we haven't seen the safety car for quite some time in this series, and I think it takes a little while for the safety car to actually be called upon sometimes. It takes a fair effort for it to bring it out, so we'll wait to see.
We saw it a lot in the supercars race on Thursday, but I think that's because they changed the series setting, and if anything, it probably came out a little too often. I believe about 4 or 5 of them, whereas I mean, in my experience in racing this year, I think it came out once in Monza when I was racing with Sam for Tin Shed Racing, and that's the only one I can remember in this particular season.
Yeah,
I believe it came out in Sebring also.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it. I'm pretty sure it did come out at Daytona and at Sebring. I believe it also came out at Monza as well. So I don't think we've seen it since Monza.
That's what I mentioned. I said Monza, but Sebring, and I wonder if there was an update since then. Since then, we haven't seen it.
Well, it's a real possibility, but I believe the clock is counting down. It's not that far away from being time to go racing, so yeah, we've only got 15 seconds left on the clock, so we'll cut back to the broadcast position and bring it up, make sure all that's working. Yes, indeed it is. And there she goes. The clock expires, and no drivers having set a time during the warm-up, but I dare say most of them will probably be practicing pit-ins and perfecting pit strategy. In actual fact, I can see just on the far camera here, there's a few drivers practicing coming in and making sure that all is good for that most important stop. And we expect that we're probably going to get 2 stops for most of the field. And, well, in the case of Brock Harvey, watch this little Lotus that could, if it turns in the fact that there might be a safety car. But we'll soon find out. Siren Wales, 100
expired.
Yep, and 1 hour and 30 minutes is on the clock as the grid takes shape for the final time in endurance racing in 2018.
Bittersweet moment, Never?
Yeah, bittersweet moment. It's been good to be the lead commentator for a series such as this. It's been great also to join yourself when we do our regular broadcasts during the Thursday night series, but it's going to be bittersweet to have a bit of time away from the mic as a lead commentator for a bit, but nonetheless it's good to have a break every now and again. But we'll let's hope we send this series or this season off with a bang, and then we've got the next season to look forward to. So just waiting on the last few entrants to the grid. A few gaps.
Lost Jaden Draper. He's had a vehicle collision mismatch, so Jaden Draper unfortunately won't be taking.
So that does have championship implications, because it moves Foley up into second in the Crocodile 4 GT3.
It certainly does. There will be a gap, however. He won't be in that pit box. It won't immediately promote him, but he will have space ahead of him. Well, let's quickly go through this field, because while it's a 5.3k circuit, they will get round it pretty quickly behind the pace car. So here's Greg Nangle, the man who heads the championship by 4 points, and he has got it all to do. Basically, it's his to lose. The man chasing him starts alongside Sam Smith in the Tin Shed Racing 20. 4 points adrift. Only a win will do if Nangle is going to finish within the top 4. Ozrob behind them. Can he potentially upset the apple cart? He came very, very close to spoiling the party in qualifying, as did this man, Andy Simpson in the 85. He's right up there as well, and we know he's quick. Rounding out your LMP2 field is Luke Lefty Emerton on return. So, Stairs, let's have a look at the GT field.
Yeah, Lewis Wedding, win or bust for him tonight, more or less. There's a few permutations where he can win the championship if he doesn't win, but basically that's what his aim is tonight. Pole position, right where he wants to be, followed by Greg Chara. Have we lost Brenton Foley? Brenton Foley should be in that spot there in second place, but he doesn't appear to be there. So that is a development that we'll try and get across as soon as we can. But Greg
Foley's down in 18th.
So he's, for some reason, starting back in 18th. We'll come back to that. Jamie Snow, third in class, 8th place. Steve Bolger had a pretty good qualifying session, but got done by a few guys at the end there. Brendan Ross starts behind him. Matt Williams in 11th place, with Philip Boak for PBF Race Engineering behind him. Mike Coulston, Brock Harvey's teammate for MHRT, one of the tribute liveries we've got tonight. Brock Harvey behind him, so those two occupying the same piece of tarmac for the start of this race. Dwayne Davies will start out of 15th place, ahead of Matt Schwass in BMW Team Schwass car. Glenn Miles will start 17th, and Brenton Foley starting in 18th. So he qualified in second in class, exactly behind Lewis Wedding, but he'll be starting from the back of the grid. Now, your guess is as good as mine as to why that is.
Developing story. I'm pretty sure Bagsy will be all over it. He'll be wanting to find out what's going on there, because that is a major, major development in this championship for LMP2. This swings the pendulum very heavily in Lewis Wedding's favour at the moment, but they've still got 90 minutes to go until there is a winner. So pace car peels off. They'll line up side by side. Now Greg's out there on the marbles. Well, they line up, line astern. So the LMP2 guys are there. The GT guys are at the back. Get set, viewers, for 90 minutes of pounding the tarmac around this Albert Park street circuit. Here we go. Nangle gets a decent jump. Sam Smith was a little bit sluggish. Andy Simpson thought about having a look. Ozrob actually on the outside of Sam Smith, but it looks like they'll hold it. Oh, Sam, a little bit of a tank slapper, and that lets Ozrob through. It also lets Andy Simpson through. So Sam Smith has lost 2 places in the space of 2 corners, down to 4th already. Meanwhile, back in the GT field, it's Lewis Wedding has cleared off quite quickly. Tara has lost a place to Jamie Snow, but he's having a look on the inside here at turn number 4 and doesn't quite get the job done. But then there's a little bit of squabbling back in the field. Steve Bolger's under threat from Phil Boak, side by side through 5. Boak will have the high ground through 6. Matt Williams is buying into this as well. He's gotten past Mike Coulston and Brock Harvey already, and it's all kicking off already in the GT field.
Exactly right. Meanwhile, Brenton Foley's made up 2 positions off the start. He's up into 16th place, got his way past Glenn Miles out of turn 2, and got Dwayne Davies out of turn 3. He's been very circumspect on this first lap. He knows that this championship cannot be won on this first lap, but most certainly can be lost.
Well, where is Foley?
He's up into 16th place.
Well, here he is.
Matt Schwass jump in front of him, so let's see what he can do about Matt Schwass.
Well, the Corvette we know is very, very quick in a straight line as they round the section next door to the Albert Park Lake, and they come down to the hard braking zone for turn number, I can't remember what turn number it is, but it's a very quick left over right chicane. Oh, we've got a car off track, and that's Coulston. Coulston's off the track. I think he may have hit the fence there. Yes, he has. So he'll get out of that battle, so that promotes them up 1 more place. So Foley's made 3 places, up to 15th now. And he's still behind Schwass. Schwass with a bit of a lock-up. Foley has to run across the ripple strip and onto the grass as well. So not having the best to run through that particular corner, but Schwass is making that BMW very, very wide. Foley, let's look at the inside here. That's a little bit messy.
Yeah, it was a bit messy, but it has to be said, Foley was alongside. There was overlap, so he's made his way up into
14th.
Where is he? 14th place. So meanwhile, Mike Coulston, I expect to have damage. He hit the wall fairly hard out of turn 12. We just called the end of that earlier on, and well, he stayed out on the racetrack. So may well be battling with some steering issues from now on.
And Foley now around the outside of Brock Harvey in the little Lotus that could as well. So up to 13th. Next man is going to be Steve Bolger. He's 2.2 seconds up the road. So crucially for Foley, this puts him into 8th place overall. We've got a yellow flag somewhere on the circuit at the moment. And who's that? It's Jamie Snow. Jamie Snow has had a moment somewhere, and now he's got Steve Bolger all over him. So what on earth happened? what on earth happened? Oh, Foley back there.
Foley!
Foley!
The outside. There, he's trying the outside. There's no way you're going to make it through into there. It nearly spins it. Oh my goodness. If it were to finish where it is right now, Lewis Wedding would be championship. They're both on 125 points as the live championship standings go. 8th place for Foley and 1st place for Wedding.
Wow. Foley super aggressive on the early laps to try and make up places. He knows he's got it all to do now, having started from the back. Bagsy, can you have a look? What on earth happened to Jamie Snow? We couldn't quite catch it, get to the replay in time, but looks like he had a moment somewhere around turns 4 and 5.
Yeah, had a moment coming out of turn 5, lit up the rear tyres and spun towards the outside wall. Didn't collect the wall, so he should be fine to continue on, but it's a shame for him because he was getting very close to the back of Lewis Wedding.
Yeah, he certainly was.
Disaster for LMP2 man Sam Smith for his championship challenge. He's down in 4th place with Greg Nangle winning the race, and that means that Greg Nangle would quite comfortably take the championship in LMP2. Yeah,
Sam having a very poor getaway from the first row of the grid. Greg got the jump. Obviously, it's the pole sitter's prerogative to decide when he goes and when he doesn't go. But not only that, Sam compromised himself into the first couple of turns. He got rounded up by Ozrob on the outside of turn 1, and then on the inside, and then the next turn, Andy Simpson got ran him as well as Sam just lit it up a little bit too much. But look, crucial.
Foley's having a look down the inside of Bolger. Brock Harvey had a little bit of a look. He's the meat in the sandwich is Foley, and he slots back in behind Steve Bolger as they go down to turn 3. And this is a tasty little battle because the guys up ahead are getting out of the way, clearing off, I should say. Yeah, so a couple of battles in GT have sort of broken apart here, and we've got this 3-car battle here as Stairs is making more noises. So obviously there's Foley's sliding that car around. No regard for those tyres at all.
No, he's super aggressive at the moment, and I'd be hating to see what his tyres are going to look like when they come off at the first pit stop, because he can't be doing them any favours whatsoever. The guys ahead are just driving nice and smoothly, making the cars as wide as they can. Here goes Foley. He's going to have a look to the inside here at the chicane. There's a lock up ahead of him, and he's going to get the job done on Bolger. And that's Matt Williams and Brendan Ross.
In front of him, they're off. That puts Foley back in championship position, 2 positions, and he gained the position from the cars going off the track, and he also made the move up on Steve Bolger.
Well, we're going to have a look here at the replay because it was Matt Williams leading Brendan Ross, and Ross has been quick as Sam Smith sets the quickest lap of the race. So what happened here? And it was it was an outbraking. It was outbraked himself. So Brendan Ross outbraked himself, careened straight into the back of Matt Williams, and sent them both off into the kiddie litter at the chicane. So that Matt Williams will not be happy about that, especially since he's also taken Brendan Ross under his wing, so to speak, in the FCR stable in terms of getting him up to speed. And Ross has been driving quite well, and he will not be happy about that mistake.
Yeah, the only one angrier than Matt Williams about that manoeuvre will be Lewis Wedding, because it's a complete free kick to Brenton Foley, and that puts him up into 5th in class, and that hands the championship on a silver platter. Long way to go, of course. Maybe a bit too early to talk about championships, but Brenton Foley 128 points, Lewis Wedding 125 points.
Absolutely. Well, we'll just take a brief pause for a minute, not only to adjust the sound on the audio, but also just to.
I'm yelling too loud.
No, not for you yelling too loud. This is for the audio on the game being a little bit too loud. But nonetheless, it's kicked off quite an interesting series of events, hasn't it? With all these the GT runners and co. Squabbling over here. And as we look back to the LMP2 fit, here's Andy Simpson having a quick look at Ozrob as well into the last couple of corners. So Simpson, we know, is quick, and I wouldn't hesitate to guess he might put a move on here down to turn number 1. But the lead 4 are still within the same frame at the moment, the same shot of the camera. There they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the gap is coming down. So the Simpson hangs on and stays in line at the moment here. But if we have a look at Greg Nangle, you can see the gap to Sam Smith is only 3.1 seconds, and it stayed fairly constant. So not marching away at the front of the field at the moment.
Not at all. They're fairly closely matched, those top 4. Greg Nangle with the fastest first sector, Andy Simpson with the fastest middle sector, and Sam Smith with the fastest lap. So that just goes to show how closely matched these guys are. But Sam, with these 2 in front of him, he's got a huge headache in front of him to get past them.
Andy Simpson has another little look down here at the end of the first sector. So he's all over the back of Ozrob here. Ozrob driving quite defensively at the moment and making the car wide as Andy has another bit of a look, just trying to distract him. But yeah, Sam doesn't want to get tangled up in these two. But look, they're all a little bit of a moment there for Ozrob as well. He caught a bit of the grass, and you know, Andy wasn't quite close enough to capitalise on that one. But have a look at the last lap times they all did. So Nangle a 40.3, Ozrob a 40.4, Andy a 40.4, Simps and Sam a 40.4, and they're all lapping very, very consistently around the same mark. So it just goes to show how evenly matched they are. They could be just settling in, or Sam just could be settling in for the long haul here at the moment, and Greg out in front might be doing the same with these guys in second and third, scrapping away here.
It's such an awkward scenario for Sam because he needs to get in front of these two and then find a way to put Greg Nangle behind them both. So he's got to be fast, he's got to overtake Greg Nangle and then somehow back them up, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg style in 2016 in Abu Dhabi, and then hope he set the fastest lap of the race, and hope that that something goes his way from a standpoint of luck.
Yeah, just got a quick update on Foley, guys. He's in the last lap. He's had a couple of incidents. He's gone deep at turn 13, or I believe 14 actually. Sorry, and he's also clipped the wall on the final corner as well. So a little bit of damage being carried from Foley. He also lost the position to Bolger, and is now sandwiched in between Bolger and Harvey yet again.
Oh, here we go. This is tightened up.
High on Glenn Miles. This is really stacked up. Greg Nangle was the big loser out of that. He really got backed up into the... Sam Smith's trying to make his way past Andy Simpson and Ozrob, who are fighting each other. And ever the opportunist. Now Andy Simpson going down the inside at the chicane. Outbreaking. Ozrob gives him the room. It's fantastic racing, but this is all letting Greg Nangle off the hook. There was that contact there with Sam Smith and Ozrob.
Didn't quite see any contact there, but Sam rolled out of the throttle and let them fight it out. Ozrob's going to have a fight. Oh, he's had a bit of a moment. No, that's not the pass, and Andy Simpson gets the job done. But you're right, Stairs. They came up to the back markers, and that heavily disfavoured Greg Nangle, but now he's managed to skip away here.
Philip Boak is out of the race. I don't know what's caused it, but he is out of the race.
Oh, Sam's given Ozrob a little bit of a tap. A little bit of a tap sent him wide at the bottom of the back straight there, and no, he backed out of the throttle and redressed the position, but that got a little bit awkward, and now that's let Andy Simpson skip away.
Well, if that's a taster for what the traffic is going to be like in this race, we're going to have a very, very up and down sort of roller coaster kind of race, and only 10 minutes into it, but look at all the action that we've had so far. Absolutely.
Well, we've just seen an example of how the GT traffic can affect the LMP cars, and very, very easily. So we know there's 4 no passing zones on this circuit, and Greg found traffic at the very first one of them, which is this little section where the cars are approaching right now. This little section through here is where there's no overtaking on the GT cars, and for obvious reasons, and obviously it stacked up Greg quite substantially and brought all those other guys back in. Very lucky that he's managed to skip away again here, and now the field for LMP2 has broken apart a little bit. So sadly for Boak, he's retired from this race.
Yeah, Glenn Miles is kind of out on his own in the racetrack there, so they've lapped him fairly quickly, but there's still a ways to go until they catch the rest of the GT3 traffic. But just to touch on Phil Boak's retirement from this race, it in a weird way it helps his teammate Bretton Foley, because it gave him back the position, 5th place position. He was still with the position lost to Steve Bolger, still in championship position, but he gained another position there with the retirement of his teammate Philip Boak.
Yeah, he certainly does. And Boak and Foley are actually carrying identical liveries on their cars, despite the fact one car is red and one car is yellow. So that's the first of the ones we're going to hone in on and have a look. So here's Foley having a look at Bolger again. But you can see here, so Foley running one of the tribute liveries. And on the hood there is a cross, We Remember across the top, and some very nice graphics down the side of the car as well, with some poppies there, and Soldier with a cross as well, lest we forget. So rather nice livery. I actually think it goes quite well with that car. I actually liked it a lot better on the red one, actually. On Boak's car looked quite nice as well. So that's very, very thoughtful livery there. It just blends in nicely with the paint job.
Andy Simpson's got a sniff of victory here. He's taken off after Greg Nangle having dispatched of Ozrob, and he's just put in the fastest lap of the race, some 6/10 faster than Greg Nangle on the previous occasion. So they're coming around to lap Mike Coulston now. This could be bad news for Greg Nangle if he catches him at the wrong part. And Mike Coulston does get out the way. Now Andy Simpson will have to negotiate him, and indeed he does. but Andy Simpson's got a sniff.
Yeah, and they got Brendan Ross as the next man in queue for Nangle as well. So this will be the next spot where he can get the job done down the inside here. And if Simpson's close enough, he'll go with him. And he does.
Oh, he's going to catch him. Is he going to get him before turn 11? Yes, he does. That,
yeah.
You don't want to spend time behind him. That is a downforce corner, so the LMP2 cars can go through there quickly. GT3 is not so much.
I'm not sure if Osrob and Sam Smith will get the job done, or Osrob will get the job done before the next turn. Sam Smith maybe, or no, Sam's going to wait it out. Sam's got to wait this one out, and he'll get the job done probably in this. Now this is the next short shoot. And he's gonna. This is going to disadvantage Sam heavily. Actually, Brendan Ross goes wide, so.
That was lucky. Otherwise, the next part's.
Oh, Sam! He's on the. Got to put his right rear wheel on the grass, and he had a fistful of opposite lock there for a minute. So heart-stopping moment.
I think fistful of opposite lock is his middle name, to be honest.
Yeah, he loves hanging the tail out, doesn't he?
He certainly does, which is fitting, as there's still got more traffic. Go on.
Simpson's gone into the side of an GT3 car.
He has.
Turn one.
He has. Something's happened to him here. So, time to break out the replay. Let's have a look. He was right under the, or getting closer and closer and closer to the rear of Greg Nangle. Now, Nangle was behind Schwass. Nangle got the job done on Schwass, and yeah, Simpson clumsy, very, very clumsy. Actually kept it off the wall as well. So very, very crucially, kept it off the wall, but that drops him right to the back of the leading four. He's still ahead of Luke Lefty Emerton for 5th place in the LMP2 standings. But yeah, that was a clumsy move.
Taking the sting out of the battle for the lead. Greg Nangle now with a 4-second lead over Osrob. So the closest battle in LMP2, that between Osrob and Sam Smith. Now Sam really needs to get the job done on Osrob. I reckon he's got the pace at the moment. Albeit Osrob has...
oh, that's wide. That's wide. Osrob was wide.
Brock Harvey in front of him. There's nowhere to go. So Sam Smith, basically, he had a bit of a run, but Brock Harvey was slightly in the way. And they're coming down to...
Oh, Sam!
Sam's gone! Sam's gone! Oh, no!
Sam is around. He's around, and he's in the middle of the track. He's going to wait for the cars to come past. Andy Simpson goes the other way. My goodness. Oh, and he's gotten out the way, and Stairs is going off. Dear, oh dear. It's a full course yellow. The first full course yellow since Monza comes out. Wowee.
It was difficult to hide my partiality in this event here, but that is devastating for Sam Smith. I guess the only good part of that for Sam Smith is that there is a safety car, so the gap, the amount of time that he was stationary there is negated by the fact that the field's going to close back up again.
Well, the HSV Camaro pace car has come out to lead the field around in what is the first safety car since Monza, could you believe? So Greg Nangle, crucially, has gotten past a lot of the GT traffic as well. The man behind him is Jamie Snow, so the only two cars that he had not lapped were Turra and Wedding, and they were very close on track. Turra was keeping Wedding very, very honest for those opening 9 laps of this race.
Somewhere along the lines, Foley's got back past Steve Bolger, so that's put him up into 4th place and cements further his strong position in the championship battle with Lewis Wedding. 5 points clear as it stands.
What's say to note here that's unfortunate for most of the GT3 runners, that because Wedding and Turra were the only two who hadn't been lapped yet, they are essentially going to have a lap advantage on the rest of the GT3 field.
Yes, especially with the strategy set to play out as well, because you're right, the Jamie Snow was only a couple of seconds off the back of Lewis Wedding, but that has come out and literally given them a huge advantage over the rest of the field. So they're all going to have to figure out how on earth they're going to get back on that lead lap. They're going to have to really hope that something happens to those guys if they want any shot of featuring on the top step of the podium. In actual fact, Jamie Snow's just being told now to go through. So Jamie Snow going through on not only Nangle but the pace car. So I'm wondering if some of the cars may be getting told that they're allowed to overtake here, but looks like so far it's just Jamie Snow for some reason or another.
Snow got the lucky dog.
The Snow gets the lucky dog. That was the voice of Brock Harvey. So
just
the lucky
on the appendage by the fairies.
Yes. certainly was. So
gives him a chance of race victory.
That means the top 3 in GT are on the lead lap at the moment and will be a lap clear. So, wow.
Basically means Foley is almost no chance of getting any further position than where he is right now, because it'd be unlikely for him to get a lap back on Jamie Snow.
No, but it puts him back into the clutches of some of the drivers that had been dropped off the back of the field a little bit. Now, pits are open for the lead. Pits are open for the lead runners. Are any going to take service? It doesn't look like
none of them.
No,
it's too early. There's only 20 minutes elapsed, not even. So, I think certainly what we heard from Brock Harvey is that he may well be able to one stop. I wouldn't be surprised if Lewis Wedding has been fuel saving in this early part of the race and could possibly do that as well. So this is very interesting.
Wedding, Tara and Snow might as well pit here given the immense distance they have ahead of everyone else.
True.
It's essentially a free pit stop.
It's
going to be a lap up.
It's a massive free kick, so it means they can afford to run a two-stop strategy, and they can also afford to run aggressively as well. They can run new tyres, they can run full fuel. They don't have to worry about any fuel saving.
Wedding's coming into the pits,
well, there he is. You're absolutely spot on.
Advice.
There he is, and we know...
And Tara too.
Yep, so Tara's mimicking what Wedding is doing. We know Wedding's the master of strategy. He showed us all up at Road America in GT last season, where we suspected he was going to run out of fuel or run out of tyres, and he ended up winning the race. We didn't know what he was doing, and then he came out and absolutely stomped it out and won the race. So he is an absolute master when it comes to that type of strategy. Now, watching Jamie Snow at the minute, so he's also on the lead lap here, having gotten past the safety car or being given the lucky dog in the Cadillac, which runs the camouflage livery. That's his normal livery. He's in as well. So I guess in a way you can say he's paying homage to the cause as well. But that is his usual livery.
It is his usual livery, but well, with Lewis Wedding and Greg Tara and now Jamie Snow, having made their pit stops, they've got the lap advantage and a free pit stop. It's almost like, would you like fries with that? I mean, it severely disadvantages those behind them and severely advantages them. As much as severely is probably not the correct adjective for that.
Yeah, they basically went into the 7-Eleven to get their fuel, and then went next door to Macca's and said, "I'd like to upsize my order, please," because they are literally head and shoulders above the field now with a lap advantage. It's almost unheard of. The safety cars come out at such an opportune time for these guys.
And for our South Australian viewers, substitute 7-Eleven for OTR and you get the idea.
Absolutely. Well,
7-Eleven on Tara's...
Go on, Baxi, sorry.
Snow on Tara's pit stop, he didn't take tyres on that pit stop, whereas Wedding and Snow both did.
Well, that's interesting.
So let's put a bookmark on that one. No tyres for Greg Tara. We'll watch his progress with interest. It didn't jump him ahead of Lewis Wedding, interestingly, so he was too far behind to capitalise on that. So it's a bit of an odd decision. I guess he was hoping that it would give him the track position.
Well, I'm wondering if there maybe was some damage repair in that. If he didn't take tyres, the only other reason he would come out behind Wedding if fuel was the only limiting factor. He didn't come into the pits that far behind him, but I'd suspect maybe he's had a bit of damage repair.
Got a flurry of activity in the pit lane here.
Huge number of cars coming into the pits.
Well, here we go, led by Foley as well. So Foley in, and he looks like he's backing them all up too. So that's very, very slow on the entry. So who hasn't gone through? So Steve Bolger hasn't stopped. Schwass hasn't swapped. And look at this. And not only that, Andy Simpson's come in too. Sam Smith is in.
Ozrob,
where's Ozrob in all of this? So Ozrob stayed out.
No, he stayed out, and so was Greg Nangle.
Oh,
so
look at this. And Sam Smith is sharing. Is he sharing a boom with Dwayne Davies?
It looks like.
Yeah, he's next door.
Sam Smith is...
I think he's getting serviced here.
He's getting serviced there because there is, if you can just get to the edge of the bounding box of the pit box, it will service you, and Sam Smith will probably know that. Yeah, I can see the car's just gone down off the jacks.
Luke Hamilton is hoping to share as well with Matt Williams back here.
Yep. And Brock Harvey gives Sam Smith a bit of a rub for good measure coming out of the pits as well. So, in actual fact, Brock Harvey jumps Foley. So that's a rather interesting situation. So Harvey may not have taken tyres there, and as a result,
so I can just confirm he did take tyres, but there's more fuel tank in that car, meaning he has less stationary time for fuel.
There you go. So the little Lotus.
Greg Nangle, Oz Rob, they did not come into the pits.
Neither did Steve Bolger and Matt Schwass, nor Ozrob. Or Greg, yeah, so Ozrob and Nangle, the only two in LMP class that didn't pit. And then in GT, it was Bolger and Schwass. Everybody else did.
Very, very interesting. Well, we heard from Brock Harvey that he reckoned if there was a safety car, he could make the one-stop work. But clearly, when he saw everyone else peeling into the pits, he didn't feel like there was much of an advantage in doing so, because then they would all have fresher tyres than him. And so he has elected to come in, and regardless, he's jumped position. So well, Lewis Wedding's currently third outright because he still was on the lead lap when the safety car came out. So Sam Smith is third in class, but behind him on the circuit.
Yeah, well, Sam Smith is actually he's actually gotten onto the back of the GT field there, so they're all starting to line up quite nicely now. So he hasn't lost too much in terms of getting off the back of the snake, but he's got a lot of GT cars to lap. Nangle's going to have a clear run out in front, Ozrob second, and Andy Simpson behind Sam Smith at the moment, but Matt Williams ahead of them. So, and Luke Emerton, he pitted as well, but then you look at Wedding is up into third place overall. Same sort of scenario we saw was going to eventuate in Shanghai with a GT car having been on the podium in outright. But
well, that will probably rectify itself fairly shortly after the restart.
I imagine so. Well, safety car lights are off. In she comes. Nangle has control of the field. Wedding right in the wheel tracks. A bit close here. I think he's going to try and use it for an advantage to get a bit of a tow, but nonetheless, it's Greg's prerogative to go when he wants to go. An hour and 5 minutes still left on the clock.
Actually.
And Ozrob behind
Ozrob
Wedding.
Wedding's the Bentley, the second Bentley you can see right now.
Yeah.
So that's Ozrob a lap down.
Yeah, he was. And Wedding was trying to...
Bolger a lap.
Yeah, well, it was Bolger actually, so you're trying to get a bit of a run there. So Ozrob and Nangle, so second and first places are through, and they are away. Meanwhile, Lewis Wedding is he's behind Matt Schwass here, so Schwass a lap down, and Sam Smith and Andy Simpson are having to wait here. Schwass lets Wedding go, and now he also lets Sam Smith and Andy Simpson go, and Wedding does the same, lets the LMP2 cars go, and they get the job done. Up the inside they go. So Sam Smith onto the grass as well, and that forced Andy Simpson to take some evasive action in that particular little sequence of corners. And now Simpson having a look at the back of Sam Smith here, and down the inside. Yeah,
Job's done. Well done.
Decisive move from Andy Simpson. Sam Smith back to fourth, but now they've got to get their heads down and get onto the back of the leading two.
Yeah, now both of these two guys recovering from spins earlier on, and Andy Simpson was on a charge not long ago. Brenton Foley sits in 11th place, and as the cars start to sort themselves out, that will be 6th place outright, which is championship winning position for him.
Sam's on the outside here again at the turn where he had his spin. He doesn't want to be doing that twice, but had a bit of a run and nothing to go. But he's just got to, I think for the moment, Sam's just got to trail Andy, because he knows that Andy can really hone in on the back of the leading two guys, and quite quickly. So Sam's just got to go with him. They've got the fresher tyres, they just need to use them more effectively and get the job done, and that way when it comes to the pit stop time, they're going to be in the box seat. They will take over the lead of the race, these two, when the other guys come in for their first stop.
And that will be very, very interesting to see how the strategy plays out, because Ozrob and Greg Nangle will surely have to pit fairly soon. Word on the ground from Phil Boak, game crashed, so that was the reason why Phil Boak is out of this race. Unfortunate for him, so far the only retirement.
Well, championship rivals in GT are line astern at the moment, so Lewis Wedding 5th, but Foley down in 10th, and crucially, the first of the cars that is a lap down, the next car to be a lap down would be Steve Bolger, and if Steve Bolger can stay ahead of Brenton Foley, should another safety car come out, then it'll be a lucky dog for Steve Bolger, which would put him back on the lead lap, and then further cement Foley's position as not being able to make really any inroads here. But for the moment, he's going with Lewis Wedding.
Well, being Wedding's teammate, priority number one for Steve Bolger is stay ahead of Brenton Foley, because if he can do that, that is good news for Lewis Wedding.
It certainly is. Well, Corvette's going with the Bentley here at the moment, and as we alluded to a little bit earlier, the two Bentleys also running tribute liveries. So you can see a couple of poppies there for Lewis Wedding, the Anzac Day AFL football symbol on the hood.
He wants to unlap himself here.
Yeah,
look at him go.
He's looking down the inside. This is getting a bit dicey here. When we're talking about liveries, we got Foley clambering all over the back of Wedding, but I'm wondering if Wedding's...
Luke Emerton's behind them in the LMP2 car.
Yeah, Leamington's got to bide his time here, though, Stez, because this is a no passing zone until they get onto the front straight. Now, Emerton's not the quickest, but he should be able to round these guys up. Yeah. And Foley takes a bit more curb than usual. Emerton to the inside here. Here he goes. Job done. And nice and cleanly.
A question on the no passing zone, because that was actually for position on Wedding, would that count as a no passing zone for Emerton?
Very good question. I don't think we anticipated that being a situation that would happen.
I think that is a very good question. I mean, in terms of it's no lapping is the actual terminology, but if it's for position, I think it's different kettle of fish. As Foley gets awfully close to the back of Wedding there was a bee's dick within that.
Lewis is fuel saving heavily here. I think that's... I mean, no disrespect to Brent Foley, but he's holding Brent Foley up a lot here.
Yeah.
This isn't just a little bit.
No, that's right. And what cements that further is that Steve Bolger is actually driving away from Lewis Wedding, even though he is the next man that would be going a lap down. His advantage is increased quite comprehensively. So
I wonder if Lewis is trying to back Foley back into traffic.
I'm wondering if he's holding him up here for any deliberate reason. I mean, it serves no purpose.
Well, it does, because if cars get past Foley, then it might put Lewis into championship position. I mean, he has to get a few of them past him, but I'm sure he's done the maths.
Well, the next man behind is Matt Williams. So Matt, we know, can drive the pants off that Ford GT. But then behind Matt Williams, who's the next man in the queue? So that is Matt Schwass and Brock Harvey. So those guys, Matt Schwass didn't stop, but Brock Harvey did. So Lewis is trying to get every little bit of advantage that he can here.
I don't know what happened to Schwass. He was ahead of Foley after the restart, so something strange has happened there.
Yeah, Foley going deep here. Oh, he's nudging the back of Lewis Wedding here.
This Wedding's not touching the accelerator pedal. That's why. 152, he's still a full 8/10 slower than Foley on the previous lap.
Yeah, well, this is the most interesting battle of the lot. Jamie Snow now rounding up Matt Schwass in the background as well. So Matt Schwass still a lap down, but Jamie Snow having got back onto the lead lap.
These guys are also going to have the added bonus of Ozrob coming up to them soon, because he's hit the lap previously, so it's just Greg Nangle out of the front.
Yeah, so we didn't see that. So Ozrob in, first of the LMP runners to stop under a green flag.
About a 40-second transit time for him there, because he's a minute back. 50-second, I should say.
Yep.
Or actually taking away the 10 seconds. Yeah, no, that's about right. Yep. So, yeah, 50 seconds, that's what you would expect to lose as an LMP2 car to come into the pits.
Now, this pair have really not been making great inroads into Nangle over the last couple of laps, although they're matching times. So, last lap they matched him, and in actual fact Sam Smith was a little bit quicker, but they're not making inroads in the leaps and bounds that they need to be. And Nangle at the moment is down at turn 1, and these two have come off of the last turn. So they come across the line this time around. Now Simpson's dipped into the 39s on that particular lap. Sam Smith going with him, so continuing to chip away. The gap's down from Simpson to Nangle to 9 seconds, but it's not. It needs to be coming down a lot quicker than that. These guys have really not made any use of their fresh tyres to full effect at the moment. Mind you, they had to get through a lot of the GT traffic as well before they got into some clear air. But now they're in clear air, they really need to be putting the hammer down. Or maybe they might be going into some sort of strategy mode and trying to go for a shorter fill on the second stop.
Well, Lewis Wedding is still trying to back Brenton Foley into Matt Williams, but Matt Williams races out of the same stable as Brenton Foley. They often talk in Discord together, as Brenton Foley has a look down the inside here, and I think he will have the job done.
Yep, there he goes.
Not for position, but he's unlapped himself, and that is crucial. I think Matt Williams was kind of not really wanting to take advantage of that situation that was occurring there. And Now what's going on?
Oh, Lewis is...
Oh, what is going on?
Lewis has made contact. Lewis made contact with the back end of the Corvette. I'm not 100% sure. Did he outbrake himself or something here? Well, let's have a look at it again. So Foley got past quite easily into turn number 1.
Wedding has now basically started racing and wants to put Foley a lap down again so that he can go about backing him into the pack again.
Well, it was a bit of a clumsy move there, Dan. I'm just watching on the replay
just wants
here.
to finish the race.
Yeah, bit of a clumsy move there from Wedding into turn number 4. And in actual fact, he lost a little bit of one of the aero fairings on the front of the car there. No real major damage, but that's a real worry for Lewis if he's gone into a racing mode. Foley's still got the ahead of him on track at the minute as they come down into the fast chicane at the end of Sector 2. But
they're about to get Osrob on the back of them.
They certainly are.
Just to add to the confusion, Greg Tara is also because Greg Tara and Osrob is for position, and they're both on the same lap as Wedding here, not the other two. So Tara, one of the other ones who is still a lap on the lead lap, Rob.
Yeah, Tara's a lap up on Foley, racing for position with Lewis Wedding, and for Osrob, who obviously has made his pit stop, and that's why he's behind them all. So and he's trying to put Matt Williams a lap down, another lap down, because he is a lap down on Osrob.
And also, fact that Greg Tara is also a lap up on Matt Williams, as well as Williams is trying to chase Osrob across the track and get any sort of a tow that he can as Osrob's closing on.
Pits, and so too Glenn Miles.
So a couple of more drivers stopping under the green flag. Well, now Osrob's got to round these guys up pretty quickly on the outside, and looks like he will. And Wedding trying to go with Osrob here, and he's being squeezed! He's being squeezed by Foley. That was a little bit naughty. Oh, and Wedding gets back onto the track, very nearly makes contact with Matt Williams, and the big loser out of all that was Osrob, who went way too deep at turn 4, and now he's got to do it all over again.
Yeah, there was an overlap, but that is not probably something Lewis will be too happy about.
Bolger pitting puts Foley into the free pass position currently.
Yeah, well, it certainly does. So there he is, and there's confirmation on your screen. He is on lap 16. He's done 16 laps in 17, but yeah, Osrob is now he's got to lap them all over again. So here he comes down the inside. Gonna have to just bide his time here on Matt Williams and wait it out and get him on the next straight.
Foley's cleared off. I don't think there's much Matt Williams can do about that, and I don't know, it depends if Wedding and Foley are in cahoots. Williams might want to hold Wedding up for a turn or two.
Potentially. Well, let's have a look back at the top end of the field, because Sam Smith is still behind Andy Simpson. They're trying their best to catch Greg Nangle, but Nangle's got his lead back out to nearly 11 seconds, so putting the hammer down. Maybe he's about to stop soon.
Yeah, well, he said the fastest lap of the race not too long ago. 39.2, but Simpson and Smith are in the 39s as well, so they're dropping time, but not as dramatically as you might expect. Lewis Wedding pits.
So Wedding in, so maybe he had a little bit of damage or something there from when or a bit more damage than we originally suspected, from when he ran into the back of Foley as Glenn Miles goes off at the second to last corner. But that is bizarre. That is a bit bizarre. But Greg,
I think Wedding's. I believe Wedding is pitting here because he knows he's got that lap on, essentially a lap on Foley still. He's done all he can to hold him up, so now he can take a pit stop and get himself into some clean air and reduce the likelihood of him having an incident with someone else.
Well, that's a very, very useful strategy if that is the case. Well, let's see, where is Wedding? That puts him down to 8, so puts Tara into the net lead of GT with Jamie Snow second. And where is he here? We're looking for him. Lewis Wedding has come out in 3rd overall in class, actually come out behind Sam Smith, so that's actually pretty good, because he's actually come out there, I believe, also ahead of Glenn Miles, who is a couple of laps down, and I don't think there's much traffic between Wedding and Snow's quite further up the field, so there's not really much traffic apart from an LMP2 car that's just gone past him.
I think Smith has had an issue somewhere, because he wasn't too far off the back of Andy Simpson not long ago, about a lap ago, and now as the gap is out to 4 seconds, he's had a scrappy final sector on the previous lap.
Yeah, he did a 41.5 on the final lap final sector of the last lap compared to Simpson's 39.7. So maybe he got caught up in a bit of traffic or something as well. That's always a possibility, especially through the no passing zone. So it wouldn't surprise me.
It's sometimes very difficult to read into lap times in this series, because you can have a lap absolutely destroyed by traffic, and the natural ebb and flow of the cars making their way through traffic can often look at from the timing screen like a car has suddenly picked up a lot of pace or lost a lot of pace, but it's just that they've caught a gaggle of cars through a red zone.
That's exactly right, and where Sam is right now is the final red zone. This couple of sequence of corners here.
Well, Ozrob's gone off, so that's not his day is getting worse.
He's not that far away from being lapped either, I think, Ozrob. Where's he at the moment? So he's down in the first sector at the moment. He's not that far ahead of Nangle either. So Nangle is coming down. Yeah, he's probably about 15 or so seconds away from being lapped at this particular juncture. Nangle still hasn't stopped, but I'm wondering whether or not that safety car has given Greg a free kick here. He might, as well as making good lap time, or Simpson's gained some time on him this time. I think it's purely a traffic thing. I'm wondering if Greg's trying to split this down the middle, fellas, because it's 51 minutes and change left on the clock. It's a 90-minute race. It's very quickly closing in on the half-distance mark. I think the safety car may have given him a bit of a free kick in terms of some fuel saving, but he's going to very heavily have to fuel save to make it on a one stop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I think the BMW is one of the thirstiest cars out there, so I'd be very, very surprised if he's able to do that. He's going to make it a lot further than 51 minutes to go to make it through on a one stop, but maybe he's trying to do that and hoping that there is an awful lot of safety car periods towards the back end of this race.
No, that's right. Well, he has played strategy quite well in some cases, Greg, with coming in, allowing the guys behind him to come in first and changing off. As Matt Williams being chased across the road here by Greg Turra. Now Turra is trying to put Matt Williams a lap down. Nangle's in, race leader in. Here we go. So he's not splitting it down the middle. He's got to stop twice. If he gets a green flag run, he's got to stop twice. Now gets it stopped well and truly before the line as well. So making sure there's no issues with the pit lane speed limiter, but that puts Simpson into the race lead, Sam Smith to second, and Nangle at this stage set to come out in third place with Luke.
Smith is in traffic.
Yeah.
Gets past Brock Harvey, but that's why they call him the Professor. He will not make too many mistakes. Apart from, I think there was one race in Spa where we saw him, for lack of a better term, destroy the bed with feces. And that was probably the only time I've seen rash driving from Greg Nangle. Apart from that, he's always been very measured and Prost-like in his approach to these races.
He certainly has. He's
something
really well.
to note, guys. Wedding hitting when he did put him as the car, the first car a lap down. So I think there might be another angle to look at. Although Jamie Snow has just been taking that mantle as the first car a lap down.
Safety car right now.
Turra will be passed soon. Yeah, safety car now would almost certainly ensure Turra the win. Well, he'd still have Jamie Snow to compete
between
with,
him and Jamie.
Indeed, but it was maybe a strategic ploy there to get him to make sure that Foley didn't have any chance at catching on to the lead lap.
Oh, meanwhile, Andy Simpson having to thread the needle between Matt Williams and they've both gone deep. They've both gone deep. So Simpson goes deep, and that was a disaster because Turra was trying to put Matt Williams a lap down, and then Simpson was trying to get between the pair of them, and then all of a sudden, Matt Williams went deep at the thing and wanted to defend too heavily, and that ended in disaster.
This is the lead of the race we're looking at, not the net lead because of Nangle's pit stop, but they're costing each other time, and Andy Simpson, his probably weakness at the moment is the traffic, trying to lap the leader of GT3, and obviously he will be not particularly inclined to get out of the way with any great hurry.
Nice.
And now Sam Smith having a look down the inside of turn 3 for the lead of the race. Sam Smith goes through into the lead. Now, he would still lose the championship, as it were, with Greg Nangle in 4th place, but it's And of course, the championship, the strategy has not played out, but nonetheless, Sam Smith leads the race.
And Sam Smith just got a little bit of a free kick there as well, because Foley led him through between turns 5 and 6, and then Andy Simpson had to fall back into line to get through their drive-through for Brock Harvey for some reason. If he's still on the track, I suspect that that's going to be a track infringements penalty. Where is Brock Harvey at the moment? So he's 10th.
Just to correct myself on that, actually, if it would have finished like this, Sam Smith would become champion, because Greg Nangle 4th would not be good enough. Sam Smith would win by a single point, but he's coming up on Luke Emerton fairly quickly indeed. And of course, we are expecting more pit stops before the end of the race, so Greg Nangle will probably still be in a fairly strong position. Yeah,
well, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if Nangle manages to get up into 3rd place, it'll put them tied on points, but then it will result in a count back to Sam Smith if it stayed the way they were at that point, by virtue of 4 wins to 3 as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, 4 wins to 3, and that would go in favour of Sam Smith
yep.
if Sam Smith were to win the race.
Well, this is interesting now because they've all made one stop. Sam and Andy having come in under the safety car, Greg having come in under a green flag, and the race lead is Sam's. Now, we know that all 3 of them are going to have to stop again. Greg wasn't able to split it down the middle. The only thing that's going to happen is if another safety car or 2 comes out, then I think the advantage goes to Greg. These guys will have to be in almost straight away when the safety car is called. Or they can't come in straight away because the pits get closed, but they would literally have to be sitting in the pit lane when the safety car gets called for it to give them the advantage.
And Sam still has to keep Andy Simpson behind him, which is a fairly tall order. He kind of wants Andy to have a problem that drops him off the back of him, but not a big enough problem that Greg Nangle gets past him.
No. Well, we've lost Matt Schwass just recently as well in the last lap or 2 as well in the BMW, so not the return that he was looking for in GT competition. But we're approaching the halfway mark. We've got a better part of a minute to go until we get to the exact half distance mark of this 90-minute enduro, so let's take stock and let's see what's going on. So at the moment, Sam Smith leads by 1.3 seconds as Brock Harvey gets another penalty, so something else is going on there. Maybe speeding in the pit lane this time, but we'll come to that in a minute. So Sam Smith leads the race by 1.3 seconds from Andy Simpson. These 2 guys having pitted on the safety car and getting themselves topped up. Luke Emerton currently holding down 3rd position, but we suspect that will become 4th quite quickly with Nangle honing in on the back of him for P3. Nangle having just taken service in the last lap, and that has put him down into what is going to be 3rd very, very shortly. Ozrob is 5th, and that is the end of the LMP2 runners. They have all stopped, but we think Ozrob's had a little bit of a drama somewhere along the lines, dropped him right off the back of the field. Getting into GT, it's currently led by Greg Turra, so Turra having stopped under the safety car as well. Good return to competition for Turra. Jamie Snow, keeping him honest, is still off the back of him by the tune of 4.5 seconds, but also stopped under the safety car, doing quite a good job.
Lewis putting Emerton under all sorts of pressure right now for 3rd place, so this is getting tasty.
Lewis Wedding currently 3rd overall on the road, but has stopped twice. He stopped under safety car and stopped again with obviously...
Angle down the inside of turn 1. He's got the job done on Luke Emerton and up into 3rd place. That puts him tied on points with Sam Smith, but Sam would win by virtue of a count back.
Certainly would. Lewis Wedding, the first of the cars currently to stop twice in GT. Brenton Foley is 4th overall, but he's virtually a lap down at the moment, or about to go a lap down.
It's all over the back of Sam Smith right now, going down the inside at the chicane. We've seen the championship. Oh no, Andy's backed out of it. Sam stays in the lead for now.
So they're getting dicey really early, those 2 guys. Let's finish giving your field wrap up here. Matt Williams sits up in 5th in class overall, followed by Dwayne Davies on track. They're about to get lapped by Nangle. Brennan Ross has recovered to be 7th overall in class. Harvey 8th with some penalties that he's just finished serving, followed by his teammate Coulston. Steve Bolger is 10th overall in class and last overall in GT. They're going off the road at turn 1. Glenn Miles, the only 2 we've lost so far are Matt Schwass and Phil Boak from this race, both in GT. And Glenn Miles has just been rounded up by the LMP2 leaders, and Andy Simpson all over the back of him.
Down the inside of turn 3 and up into the lead if he can get it stopped.
Got it.
Sam will be eager to get back through, but now In the space of one lap, the championship has changed hands twice in LMP2. This is on an absolute knife edge.
It certainly is. Now they've looked. To be honest with you, they've got quite a buffer over Greg at the moment at 47 seconds, but they really need to be getting themselves into a position where they can short fill their final stops and come out ahead of Greg, because if Greg stops when he needs to stop next, he's going to have an even shorter fill than these guys.
Yeah, but he's dropping time to them at the moment.
Yeah, he's got traffic that he's battling at the...
Which certainly does affect it, but 50 seconds is a tall order.
Yeah, he's just finished clearing like Luke Lefty Emerton and the GT traffic as well, Greg Nangle, so he needs to put his foot down here. The only other thing he'll be thinking about doing is maybe trying to look at how much fuel he needs to put in at that final stop as well, so we'll see how that's about to pan out. But
so
Andy,
we've had both championships seesaw quite a fair bit during this race, haven't we?
They have. Well, we're going to have to get onto the current situations with where everybody is situated in both classes, because as it stands right now, we know that the LMP class is easy to work out. You've got Sam Smith second and Nangle third. That would swing the balance in Nangle's favour, and it would give him an advantage in the points standings, and he would win LMP2 if they stayed the way they were. But in GT, it's quite a different matter, because Wedding is currently third and Foley is fourth, with Wedding having stopped twice and really needs to get a win. He's in a win or bust situation, Lewis Wedding, but right now the GT car's not being really kind to him, because Foley has got quite an advantage over the guys that are behind him in Matt Williams and Brennan Ross, and shows no signs of conceding that position at the moment.
Yeah, big gap between Lewis Wedding and Brenton Foley, but only one position, third and fourth in class at the moment, as the leaders make their way past Steve Bolger, and that does not advantage Sam Smith at all. Get your sandpaper out. Sam Smith trying to get his way through on Bolger out of the chicane, and he's lost an awful lot of time to Andy Simpson on that one.
Yeah, job done. Bagsy, what are you seeing down in terms of strategy in the pits? Do you think any more runners to expect in the next sort of 5 or 10 laps or so in GT, or do you think that we're going to run for a little bit longer?
We've got Tara in right now for GT, so he's just popped into the pits.
Oh, yeah, so the race leader,
pit stop.
The race leader has come in and out, and that puts Jamie Stowe into the race lead in GT. So another change of lead in the category.
It's a long pit stop for Greg Tara. He's still stationary.
Well, I think he'll be taking tyres this time around, because we know he didn't take tyres at the very first pit stop that he did under safety car.
So that's 15 laps that he just did. Which matches what Bolger did, because Bolger didn't pit under that initial safety car and pit on lap 15. So you can assume they'll probably do close to 13 lap stints, because they had a couple under safety.
It's a 35-second gap that Lewis Wedding has to Greg Tara now. I don't think that's enough to make a pit stop and come out in front.
No, certainly not. But Lewis Wedding,
it's touch and go as to whether Tara can make it to the end.
Yeah, not only that, Lewis Wedding's going to have to stop again. So that means he will have done 3 stops, even though he is running in what is effectively clean air, with a couple of back markers to get past quite easily with the man of Lewis Wedding's skill. But he's got... It's strange to think that he's going to have to win this race. He's going to have to do it with a 3-stop strategy, almost unheard of.
Jamie Snow, race leader for GT3, is in the pits, and it's 39 minutes to go. I don't think they can make it to the end. I think Lewis Wedding has played the strategy card right here, because that's going to be very tight. They need safety cars to get to the end from here, Will Snow and Tara, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, Snow, even worse for Snow, he wasn't far enough forward in the box. They couldn't service the car, so there's an extra few seconds that goes begging. Lewis Wedding going to put Brennan Ross a lap down here, and now inherits the lead back in GT, so... cycle him back to the head of the field. You're right, he may be playing this strategy card right here. Foley in all of this is in 9th on the road overall, so 4th in class, and still got quite a sizable 22-second gap to Matt Williams as well. So Andy Simpson setting...
Trundle around. He'd be happy to finish in 4th place, because even if Lewis wins, he'd be 5 points ahead at the end of the race, and that would be enough to give him the championship.
Certainly would. Lewis Wedding sporting not only a tribute livery, but a rather large dint in the left-hand side door at the moment as well of that Bentley. So he's been run into somewhere along the line. I'm not sure where, but a little bit of damage on that number 1 Bentley.
Snow are coming out side by side.
Yeah, Tara's
got the job done though.
Yeah, the gap's been reduced a fair bit though, hasn't it? They're a lot closer than they were prior to the pit stops.
Tara had a moment at turn 14 and he went wide.
Yeah.
If Snow hadn't had that balk on the pit stop, he might have been ahead.
Yeah, so there was about a 1 or 2 second delay for Jamie Snow when he didn't pull up in the box at the right spot, so they couldn't service the car. All right, so this
37 minutes.
37 minutes to go. How many laps has Foley done here, Bagsy? Because I reckon
16 laps.
He's done
16. He's done the same as Snow did.
Obviously, he thinks he can get to the end from here. Otherwise, why would he pit?
Well, this is
stage.
It's interesting because the GT cars are doing lap times in the 52s, so they're a full, 10 to 12 seconds off the LMP2 cars. So if you do your math right, and he's done 16 laps, that's only 30 minutes. So he's still going to have to stop again. Well, Matt Williams, who's behind him, is coming in as well, and so too Brendan Ross.
This is the end of the tanks. These are the end of the tanks, so they're having to come in now, because these are all people who pit on the safety car. You're seeing the people who managed to fuel save better than others.
Matt Williams not particularly happy with the lineup, and they're all flashing their lights here, and then they realise they're on the broadcast, so we're going to cut away from them. Hi guys. As
I'm not going to embellish them any further.
No, that's it. You've had your flashing light moments, and that's enough. So
Sam now 6 seconds adrift of Andy Simpson. I reckon he's either had another moment or he's struggled with traffic a bit more than Andy did.
Yeah,
so,
I think
something interesting to note is that after Foley, Ross and Mearns were pitting there, Brock Harvey and Mike Coulson in the 2 Lotuses having not needing to stop because they sipped their fuel rather than gulp it, now a fair way ahead.
Oh, Andy Simpson, my goodness gracious me, rounding up Lewis Wedding on the grass, if you don't mind. That is certainly worthy of a replay. Let's have a look at this, because the hairs on my neck just literally stood up as this happened, and have a look at this. So he came up right behind him there. This is a passing zone. There's no restrictions here, but Lewis went wide. He put 2 wheels on the grass there, Andy. The wheels literally gripped in, and he skated it across the turn and somehow manages to keep it on the blacktop, but that's skill. I don't know how he managed to keep that on the blacktop, but that is impressive. And
if he makes a mistake there, damages his car, that is a championship-changing moment. Not for him, but for the guys either side of him. Because if he has a mistake that hobbles his car to the point where he gets passed by Sam Smith, but not by Greg Mangle, who's 56 seconds adrift, then the championship goes back in favour of Sam Smith. This is all just on a knife edge.
It is. Well, one thing I just saw about 30 seconds ago, gents, is a pass that was made in the no passing zone by Andy Simpson, but however, Dwayne Davies did pull over and let Andy Simpson go. So I think that's probably a different kettle of fish. It probably won't be any. It wasn't a forced pass. It was
really
an acknowledged pass.
Supposed to do that. GT3 cars, it's every bit as important for the LMP2 guys to not pass in the non-passing zones as it is for the GT3 guys not to move offline, because then you might expect them to move offline when they're not obliged to, and that can cause an accident if there's confusion.
They certainly can. So
we've had Luke Everton retire, unfortunately. But what that does mean is that we will not have the potential of a perfect tiebreaker scenario where Sam Smith and Greg Angler exactly equal on points, and
thanks sweet merciful Christ for that.
So yes. that potential can of worms is no longer opened.
Well, we've closed the tin of worms.
We don't think we ever opened the tin of worms to begin with, because we were going to open the tin of worms at the end of the race. But
can we get the can opener on it?
Yep, the tin of worms can go back on the rations shelf for when the nuclear fallout happens.
I don't know if I'd like worms, even if it was a nuclear fallout scenario. But anyway, we'll digress.
Greenies would. Let's just say enough said. Glenn Miles! Oh, my goodness! My goodness! I saw that coming. I thought Andy Simpson's about to come in, and all of a sudden a Ferrari appeared. Well, while Andy's in the lane, that is a heart-racing moment for Andy Simpson, and he did so well to avoid that too. So Glenn Miles had outbroken himself into the second last turn. Here he is across the grass. You can see him there in front of shot. Rejoined Andy Simpson. What lightning reactions. Surely won't be penalised for that. for having to cut the entry into the pit lane, but none of the car was at the asphalt. But Glenn Miles...
If anyone's at fault, that's Glenn Miles for an unsafe rejoin, but no harm done.
No, thankfully not. But what it does do is it hands Sam Smith back the lead of the race. Now, Simpson and Smith came in on the same lap under the safety car. So it's interesting that Sam's able to go a little bit longer, so maybe able to save a bit more fuel in the tank.
Maybe. It's easy to the end from here, I should think.
Yeah.
And it's looking very good for Andy Simpson for the win in this race. But Sam Smith, what can he do? I wonder if he'll do something strange like not change his tyres and go to the end, try and win the race that way with Greg Nangle in third place. It's a big old gap between Andy Simpson and Greg Nangle, and Nangle still has to pit again as Osrob spins at the penultimate corner. Doesn't bring out the safety car, just a local yellow.
Well, we have seen Sam Smith not change his tyres before. He outfoxed the Professor at Sebring, where they stopped and Sam didn't take tyres and Greg did. Greg did have the faster car toward the end and was honing in at a vast rate of knots. And at the end, the gap was chopped down quite comprehensively, but he still had the win under his belt, and that became his first win, Sam Smith, and on debut in this series as well. Sam in, so he's only gone one lap extra.
Yeah, not a huge surprise there if they took their fuel to the end of its capabilities. But this will be very, very interesting. Do we know, Bagsy, if Andy Simpson took tyres on that stop?
He did.
So,
watching
Sam Smith, if I was Sam, I wouldn't take tyres.
Well, he's taking them.
Tyres,
so we've seen that. So I think maybe just a little bit too far. It's not like the
trick there.
I think it's like the Sebring scenario where he ended up having to only go a short distance to the flag. I think it was only about 20 minutes to the flag, so the no tyre scenario worked in that case. But this time I think it's maybe a little bit too far to travel.
The tyre wear here has been higher than it was at Sebring, and so you'd be very much skating at the end. I don't think the 10 seconds would be enough given the pace Andy Simpson has had on Sam Smith.
Sam's already into turn 2, and Simpson's just into turn 2, and Sam's only just got going, so he's 12 seconds behind now. Did he lose that much time in his last stops, or
I think he might have put more fuel in than was needed potentially, Sam Smith.
Potentially.
Nangle is right behind him on track, but of course he will have to make another pit stop.
Yeah, so that's crucial for Sam here, is that Greg does have to stop again, where Sam can run to the flag. So even if Sam was to let Greg go, all he's pretty much got to do is hang on to the back of him, and he's guaranteed to finish second at worst if he keeps it on the blacktop, which is not good enough. He would then need something to happen to Andy Simpson, but then Osrob...
But not a
DNF. Andy Simpson would have to have some sort of issue or run off the road and get thing here. Or Nagle's having a little bit of a look.
Greg Nagle's going to want to get past here, because if he can get past and then start backing up Sam Smith, the more he backs up Sam, the less, as Brock Harvey gets another drive-through penalty, the less Sam has a chance of catching back up to Andy Simpson. So Nangle might be content to just fight Sam a lot here instead of because we're getting drive-through penalties left, right, and centre for track cuts mainly.
Well, here he goes, Nangle through.
Yep. So now if Sam's intelligent,
see if he takes your advice.
Yep. So Sam just needs to hang on here and stay on the back of Greg, provided that Greg doesn't try and back him up. So
I don't think Greg's going to tow him up to Andy. I don't think he's going to do that at all.
Yeah. Well,
Sam right now is hoping that Nangle peels straight off into the pits, and I don't think that's going to happen for a little while. No. This is an excellent position for Nangle to be in. He can just control Sam right now. He's sort of treating him like a little puppy dog, and the treat at the end of it for Nangle would be the championship.
Well, we're expecting about 8 laps for Nangle to do Nangle pits.
Well, let's see what sort of lap time he does on the next tour.
Let's indeed see what he does on the next tour.
Osrob in also.
Yes, Osrob stopping for the final time as well, but he's well and truly out of this battle. He's unfortunately made his bed with a few incidents that he's gotten involved in, and is well out of contention for the podium here. Let's have a look at Greg's Sector 1 time. So Greg has, it looks, I'm just waiting for it to trip on the timing screens, but it looks like it's a fairly reasonable first sector. In actual fact, he's pulling away from Sam here, so I don't think he's backing him up. I think he's going for it.
Maybe it's he may well see whether Sam can go with him at the moment. Maybe he can't, and Greg, it probably would be a sensible idea to not risk getting tangled up in an incident, because there's always the risk that it could put him out of the race and Sam continues. Yeah, that would be absolutely a disaster for Greg.
Well, the gap is coming down. It was 14.6. It's now 13.9 at that split to Andy Simpson. So, yeah, Greg's definitely going for it. And I think Sam's just quite content just to run the pace that he needs to run at the moment. We know that the pit lane transit time plus the stop, and it was 8 laps, or rumoured to be roughly 8 laps until Greg has to stop again. It's quite comfortable for Sam at the moment to finish ahead of Greg, but then it's all about what happens to Andy. So Greg's lap time this time around is going to be a 40 quite happily, I'd imagine. It's a 40.2, and Sam's done a 41.5. So yeah, Sam's just doing enough to hang on to a second place finish here, but that's not, as we said, not going to be good enough.
Harvey's actually pitting here instead of
serving a penalty.
Serving his penalty next time round.
Yeah, no, I don't believe he's. It's an inside joke there for all you viewers. James, or D-Samaj, as he's commonly known, is an ARW driver. He told me to pit, so it's a running joke we've had before. So that cleans that little bit up for our viewers.
I think it's out of Sam's hands here. 17 seconds adrift of Andy. Andy's flying. I think the best hope for Sam is that Andy's miscalculated his fuel or his tyres, or has a mistake somewhere. There's a few things that are possible. There's traffic to deal with for the remaining 26 minutes and 30 seconds, but it's going to be a tall order for him to claw. Well, it's nigh on impossible for him to claw back 18.5 seconds on sheer pace.
Certainly is. Well, in terms of doing enough, Nangle's doing enough to keep himself in the lead of the championship by the fall of the checkered flag, but this man's also doing exactly the same. Brenton Foley, he's in 8th place. He's 4 positions behind Wedding at the moment, and that is going to be enough to keep him ahead of the standings at the moment. But there's still 26 minutes remaining, or 25 and change, as you look at the timer on the top left of your screen, and anything is possible. And believe that Foley is likely to have to stop again as well. He can't make it to the flag, having come in at the same sort of time where a number of other GT cars did, and they're getting about 15-16 laps a tank, so we reckon he's going to have to do a short fill, splash and dash.
Yes. I think one thing that is been playing on my mind, but probably wouldn't have been playing on anyone else's mind, is that I took points out of Sam Smith at Silverstone when he finished 5th and I was 3rd. But if he had finished 4th in that race because I wasn't in the race, he would still lose the championship if he would have finished now by 1 point rather than 2 points. So it's not because I raced in Silverstone that he would lose the championship if he were to finish right.
No, certainly not.
What if it would have finished as Sam 2nd and Nangle 3rd?
That's what I'm talking
that's
about.
what base. Sorry, my apologies.
Well, while we wait for the rest of the field to sort of settle down and everything to shake out the way that it has, because we know that Nangle has to stop again and Sam and Andy Simpson don't, we're going to have a look at some of the last of the tribute liveries that are going on around the in today's round, because it is Australia Day it is Remembrance Day after all.
11th of November.
No, I'm getting my wires crossed. Every day is Australia Day, in my opinion. Well, here's Brock Harvey, and coming out of the pits, having served his drive-through right with Matt Williams. So he's running the first of the tribute liveries for the Matt Harvey Repair and Tune team, and it's actually quite an interesting livery. It's got the old RAAF logo on the front there, cross on the side, and the poppies on the back of the car and on the rear wing, it looks like as well, because can't see from this angle. And his teammate Mike Coulston actually has a completely different livery, poppy in the same position, but this is an Army one with the Army star on the front and camouflage livery, camouflage on the rear wing, and quite a nice, lest we forget, livery running down the side of the car as well. So quite good job these guys have done with getting behind the cause today.
Yeah, Wedding's pits.
So Wedding's stopping for the final time. Now he can get home from here quite easily. So
jump. Well, Tara's already through.
Well, Tara's probably going to have to stop
Can
again,
he
I
make it to
imagine, as
the
well.
end? We don't think that Snow or Tara can make it to the
I
end.
expect Tara to be in, both Tara and Snow to be in the next 5 or so.
A splash and dash for them.
It will be a short stop though, yeah.
I'm going to say, what's the...
Do you think they're short filled on this one? They last stopped around about 39 minutes to go, we reckon.
I'm actually thinking...
Well, Tara stopped on 25, Snow on 26. So it's as about 15 laps a stint, so we'll expect them in, about lap 39 for Tara, 40 for Snow.
I'm wondering whether or not, gents, that these guys should actually just take the punt and actually stop now and, I wouldn't say cover off Wedding, but come in and get the job done, and then they're free to race him to the flag? Or do you think they're better off pushing and getting their fuel down as low as they can and then going for the splash and dash? What are your thoughts? Because they potentially they might not take tyres at the stop either.
They want to lower... I think they want to keep going to the bottom of the tank and keep pushing as hard as they can and have the lowest amount of station time. The problem is for Jamie Snow, he is currently 9 seconds ahead of Wedding, and Tara is another 10 seconds up the road. So I don't think they're going to come out behind anyway.
Yeah.
Even if they have a very small, even just a drive-through would put them behind Wedding.
Yeah,
Tara might stay ahead, but I think Tara can stay enough time to Brock Harvey. So I think it seems
close to DSQ territory for Brock by now. That's how many penalties for him?
There's about 3 or 4. Mike Coulston's had one too.
Seems to be a Lotus thing because Lotuses are getting the brunt of the penalties at the moment. So
it must be for corner cutting.
I believe it is. Or Race Control has a grudge against Lotus.
Once you get a drive-through penalty for corner cutting, every subsequent corner cut will give you another penalty. But I think with Greg and Snow, I reckon that the game for them now is to punt on a late safety car, because they've got the benefit of the extra lap on Brenton Foley. They could get a free pit stop and only have and basically get back on fresh tyres and have a punt on getting past Lewis Wedding with fresh rubber. Having said that, Wedding probably would pit too.
Yeah, and the only problem with that is because they are now all a lap down on the main LMP2 cars. They wouldn't be able to pit initially. They'd have to wait till the next lap with all the other lap runners. And so if any of them who didn't pit, they would end up behind, and they'd have to pass them to get to Lewis.
Oh, Brock.
Brock Harvey has not had a race to remember. Where is he on the track? Here he is. He's behind Matt Williams on track, and in terms of position as well, he's got Brendan Ross behind him as well. I'm not sure where Brock tripped it last time around, but he's surely going to be sick of touring the lane very, very shortly, I think.
He's in traffic. I wonder if he had to take avoiding action somewhere and build a corner cut that way. But I think we remember Foley had the record for the most number of drive-throughs in a race at Suzuka in the GT3 series last season. I have a feeling Brock's pretty close to challenging him for that record. Right?
Well, he's just made a pass there on Matt Williams and then gave it straight back, because Matt wasn't very happy about the hip and shoulder movement that happened into the turn either. So I'm not 100% sure what Brock's playing at here, because you're right, he's tripped it about 4 or 5 times already. Surely not that far away from disqualification territory, but he's obviously serving the drive-throughs and then getting back out and then just racking up more. So I'm wondering whether or not there's, as Bagsy said, they're just tripping the sensors at the wrong spot.
It's amazing the amount of drive-throughs he's had that he is still battling with people. He's still battling with Matt Williams.
He's giving Brendan Ross a headache because Brendan Ross wants to set about giving Matt Williams something to think about.
Well, if you think about it this way too, with the amount of drive-throughs that he's had, if he had been able to string all that together, he'd be up ahead of Brenton Foley at the moment by my calculations.
Lewis Wedding must be tearing his hair out right now. He's doing everything he could possibly do, but he's just not getting any help from his colleagues.
No, certainly not at the moment. Well, sliding it off of turn 13 there, Brock Harvey. And round 14, let's see if he peels off in the pit lane this time around. Well, we're looking for Glenn Miles, but he's not off in the grass, so that's a positive sign. And no, Harvey goes with Matt Williams. So no drive-throughs just yet. Well, we're inside of the last 20 minutes to go. Brendan Ross has come into the pits. A quick check of where everybody's at. Andy Simpson leading Greg Nangle by just gone down to 12.6 seconds.
He's flying.
He's still flying.
Right now. 39, low 39s. and consistently so. 39.2 on the previous lap. His best lap of 39.1. Andy Simpson, it's been a matter of time for him in this series. His best result, as far as I can remember, was 3rd place, and I'm just checking that. No, sorry, he's got 2 second places. Or 1 second place, I should correct myself. But he's 3rd, a 2nd, and he's on track for a 1st place, as it were, and potentially collecting the fastest lap along the way.
Yep.
He was on track for a good position last round out at Shanghai, but an emergency meant he couldn't compete in the race after he was, I believe, it was only 7 thousandths behind Nangle in that qualifying set.
Yeah, he was very, very close to Nangle as well during the qualifying run, and yeah, literally was on the front row and not far off pole. He does a 41.3 that time around, but he was all set to take the challenge to Nangle, then unfortunately could not take the start of the race. But nonetheless, he's overdue for a win, and looks like he's going to chalk one up at this rate with 17 minutes and change left. Greg's 11.7 seconds behind, so Greg chomping into the advantage in reasonable chunks, but we know he's got to stop again. Sam Smith a further 10 seconds behind Nangle and 21.5 behind Simpson, so at this stage Sam's really praying on a miracle for these guys ahead, with Nangle we know to stop again, and Simpson to unfortunately become the victim of a spin or something or another to inherit the title lead here. And then Ozrob down in 4th, so he's unfortunately not a factor in this at the moment either. Unless a safety car was to come out, then he'd become a factor with the field closing all the way up.
But then so would Greg Nangle.
And then
that would be bad news for Sam Smith.
And that is exactly right, but it would put all 4...
Ozrob is close to going a lap down as well.
Yeah, he's been close to going a lap down before, you're right. And Andy Simpson is down at turn number 13 here, and Ozrob is just up the road at 14 and now 15, 16. So you're right. If he's about to go a lap down here, and I believe he's got to stop again, I think, too, Ozrob. So he's not going to be a happy hunting ground for him as Melbourne, as Andy's a little bit wild off the last turn. Meanwhile, Tara still leads GT from Jamie Snow, but we know these guys are going to have to stop, and probably in the next lap or two. Nangle's in.
Nangle in the pits.
Rightio. So the first piece of
Andy
Simpson.
Got a drive-through penalty. Oh my goodness gracious me! That is championship deciding.
What
has happened to Andy Simpson?
Just
the track.
Let's have a look. See if we can catch it on the replay. But that is just what the doctor ordered for Sam Smith. Let's see what happens here. He got past Brenton.
5 seconds adrift.
He got past Foley, okay. Yeah. Blatant cut of the circuit, or he went a bit deep and then just gassed it up through turn 1, and that's what's handed it to him. So, unfortunately for Andy, we were saying that he was going to be overdue for a race victory. Another penalty for Brock Harvey. God, the little Lotus that could is turning into the little Lotus that should be parked in the garage, I think.
Brock Harvey has a drive-through penalty. In other news, the Pope is Catholic and the sky is blue. But Andy Simpson, 25 seconds. Will he be able to serve that penalty and still emerge in front of Sam Smith? This is very interesting. I wonder if Sam took his foot off the throat and just sort of is coasting, because if he has done that, he might be kicking himself now that Andy's got that penalty.
Well,
pit lane transit times only about 17 seconds if you don't stop, I believe. So there should be a significant gap still, I think. Simpson has no more track cuts and there's still 14 minutes left.
Yep.
So
and he's
subsequent
in.
Track cuts.
Here we go. So he's in. Well, let's see what happens. Oh, we gave the wall a bit of a rub as well on the way in for good measure. Well, he's getting it stopped nice and
stuck up behind Jamie Snow, so he's got traffic.
He's getting it stopped nice and early as well, Andy Simpson. So now the question is, with 14 minutes remaining, what's going to happen to Andy? Is he going to be cautious, or is he still going to attack it? So out he comes. There we go. Where's Sam in all of this? And he's at the top end of the
final corner.
Yeah, his final corner now. So quite comfortable.
It was only 12 seconds.
Yeah, so
that is quick. So Sam really needs Simpson to make
another one of those.
Track cut in the next 13.5 minutes. Oh, it's still not decided though. Greg Nangle would be very nervous where he is right now, because he's in championship place right now, But if Andy Simpson trips over himself, then Sam Smith would get the championship.
Yeah. Well, the only reason that Simpson became a drive-through victim there is because he quite comfortably had lapped Brenton Foley on that particular passing manoeuvre and just went a bit too deep into the corner. But what he needed to do was just get out. He had the margin. Just needed to get out of the gas, coast across the turn 1 and 2, and he would have been fine. It's a yellow flag there for Glenn Miles into the wall off of the Sector 2, of the Sector 1 split as well. So thankfully it's a local yellow.
Something to note is that if Simpson gets another drive-through and it's very close to the end of the race, I believe the game automatically assigns a 20 or 25 second penalty despite the pit lane transit time only being about 12 seconds. So if he gets one near the end, it's worth his time to go in, even if there's a lap to go, just to make sure that he doesn't lose the race win.
Well, you're certainly right there, Bags. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it is a 25-second penalty, but nonetheless, Andy's just going to have to be very, very careful for this remaining 12 minutes and 15 seconds. He's on lap, finishes lap 43 and begins his 44th lap. He's just got to take it easy, just like the Eagles. Oh, he came very close to doing it there again. All four wheels were off the track, but not to the extent.
The man knows the meaning of the term back off.
No, I don't think he does either.
Cars in the pits.
All right, so the leader in GT is finally in for his stop, and we suspect Jamie Snow will probably be in the next lap around. He goes through, being chased by Wedding as well. So Wedding is caught right up to the back of Snow. Even if Snow didn't have to stop again, I think this is just a formality with Wedding being able to get past in the next little bit. So right under the rear wing of the Cadillac is the Bentley. To the outside, he got squeezed by Foley here a little bit early in the race, and Wedding tries to go around the outside, but no going there, and he has to back off and wait for another opportunity.
I'm just trained on Andy Simpson right now, seeing if he cuts that track, because this is coming down to the wire in LMP2. One single position gained for Sam Smith, and he is the champion. But as it is right now, it is Greg Nangle. We haven't talked about GT3 for a while, but Lewis Wedding is very much in championship. Is not in championship position. Brenton Foley is holding down fourth, as he has been since the first safety car, and the gap between himself and Matt Williams is about 16 seconds, so he's fairly safe as it stands.
He's quite safe at the moment, Brenton Foley, and in actual fact, if Wedding wins the race, as we said before, he would have to finish 7th or better to take the title out, and he's got plenty of fodder up his sleeve in terms of time and position. Like, he'd have to fall down to where Mike Coulston currently is, and that's 44 seconds behind, so he's quite comfortable.
Simpson's putting down the lap times, and he's got to the point already where another drive-through, I won't say it won't phase him, but he'll still have a decent gap when he gets out. It would definitely put Sam in visual range, but I think Simpson's got the pace to take this championship away from Sam.
Sam doesn't have an answer, but it's a bit of a tease, isn't it?
You're absolutely right, and we know that Andy Simpson does some driving in real life as well, so that's probably all going to his advantage as well, being able to extract the maximum amount of performance from that Alpine as well in LMP2 class. So we've lost Brock Harvey a couple of laps ago as well, so the little Lotus that was touring the pit lane is now parked in the garage and is no longer circulating. But
he's done a few tours of that pit lane. I think in real life you'd have to pay several $100s for the kind of time in the pit lane that he's spent tonight.
I think you're right. Well, 9 minutes to go, and Jamie Snow still ahead of Lewis Wedding at the moment, but looks like they're about to stop as Nangle's just rounding up Wedding in back of shot. There he goes. We suspect that Jamie will be in for a splash and dash this time around. It's a matter of where, as Andy Simpson sets a blistering lap of a 39.0.
Even though he's, as Brendan Ross gets a drive-through penalty, even though he's on his last warning for another track cut penalty, Andy Simpson is banging out the fastest laps of the race. So he's given himself that cushion that he had earlier He had about 25 seconds before, but you would expect that the margin that he has right now would be enough for another drive-through penalty. Not that he would want to take it that close. But
well, he's out to 18, and he's just got Matt Williams for some traffic at the end of Sector 1 here, so should round him up pretty quickly. Well, he does it on the outside this time, not on the inside as he did when he hit the thing, and well, Matt's not very happy about that. You can see by the flashing lights.
Was that one of the no passing?
I don't believe it is.
Or was that all fine?
I think that one was all okay. There's four sections on the track we're not allowed to pass. So the first one is between 4 and 5. This is the second one here, where Andy's coming through right now. And then the third and fourth are the third last and second last corners. So where Andy rounded up, Matt is perfectly fine. I'm just not sure if there was a little love tap or something there. Obviously Matt's not happy about it, but that is not one of the marked points on the map where you are not, the LMP2 cars are not permitted to overtake.
Tell you what, it does raise a question though. If Andy Simpson does get himself in a situation where he's put in front of the stewards for passing in a red zone, have they discussed what the penalty is for that? And the stewards may well find themselves in a scenario where they're lumped with a decision that indirectly affects the championship result.
Well, I think we should probably preface this by saying, then that all results at the end of tonight's race are indeed provisional until confirmed otherwise. So while we will be talking about championships and who is currently champion-elect at the end of tonight's race, it will all be provisional, barring any stewards' situations.
So I did hear in the driver's briefing that the penalty for, not for the red zones, but for passing before the start-finish line after a safety car restart would be 30 seconds. A second offence would make it a minute, and a third would be disqualification. I'm not sure if those same rules applied for LMP2 overtaking or not. Potentially it would be a smaller penalty because it's not as serious an infraction, but I'm not sure.
Simpson's Smith is well within that 30 seconds of Andy Simpson if Andy Simpson were to pick up a 30-second penalty. Interestingly, Sam, we haven't seen anything from him to suggest that he would be in any danger.
There it is!
Oh my goodness, that is a drive-through penalty. He's gone wide at turn 12, and that is that's another corner cut for Andy Simpson. This is getting mighty close. The gap is almost out to the gap that it was when he got the first penalty, but this is just keeping us on the edge of our seats.
And importantly, he's got traffic in the no passing zone right now, so he has to bide his time here. So this is going to let Sam chew up a few seconds. Is Andy coming in straight away? Yes. Yeah. Right. So, another occasion. Wowee. So
Sam hasn't got traffic. Matt Williams just up the road.
Locks it up to Andy Simpson. So
did he get it stopped in time?
Yeah, he did get it stopped in time. Touring down the pit lane. Now. So where's Sam in all of this? Final corner. Well,
yeah, a little bit closer than he was
last time. A little bit closer this time, but he's now going to see that the man at the head of the queue has come in again, and he's going to have to start praying, because if Andy gets another one, it's going to be handed to Sam almost. If Andy just really needs to settle down here. He can't afford another mistake, or he's going to throw away a race win here.
As it stands, Sam Smith would lose the championship by a matter of 5 seconds.
Greg Dangle is going to be sending furious emails and texts and any form of communication he can get his hand on. Facebook messaging, Twitter DMs, it doesn't matter. They're trying to get Andy Simpson to just calm down a little bit so that he can have another AMS Oz champion.
Well, there's no computers or text messages or mobile phones in these cars. It's prohibited, and let's just preface that by saying don't use your mobile phone while driving, ladies and gentlemen. But nonetheless, Greg is going to be fuming under that helmet. He'd be praying, and not only that, Sam Smith is chomped into a little bit of time here as well. It's down to 3.6 seconds. I think it's because Andy had Glenn Miles. Yeah, and Sam's had a much better run through the traffic there. But where's the next lot of traffic for Andy Simpson? It's coming up shortly. I can hear it, and it's Foley. Yeah, it's Foley, Turra, and Snow. And they're quite some distance up the field here, but 3 minutes 45 seconds plus the last lap. Wow, we're sort of anticipating where it's going to happen, if it is going to happen, aren't we, guys? Because Sam has got the bit between the teeth. It's back out to 4.1, but Andy's showing no signs of slowing down. In actual fact, he's still throwing a bit of caution to the wind there at turn number 1. All 4 wheels off the track, but not to the point where it triggers the warning. But he's got Foley now in a no passing zone.
Close. Yes, he has, and he's waiting, and the gap, you can see that eroding itself down to 3.5 seconds. Of course, Sam Smith will have to negotiate Brenton Foley very shortly indeed. Andy Simpson, well, we saw it was turn 12 last time out that he got the track cut. You would expect that with such a short amount of time to go until the end of the race, he would be a bit more circumspect in the remaining laps, but maybe he's just a racer and he's going to go no matter what.
Well, Sam Smith should round up Foley through this section of the course here, if he's close enough to do so.
Ooh,
and actually, no, in actual fact, he probably played it a bit smart there, just didn't have enough speed to do it, and now gets the job done quite comfortably, and Foley gives him the space as well, so hampered him a little bit, I would have suggested. It's now down to 2.6.
We don't know how many warnings that Sam is on. We know that Andy can't afford any more because you don't get any further warnings after you've served a penalty for track cuts.
And now Andy's catching traffic in the no passing zone again, so he's got Tara this time around, and through these final couple of corners is where it is, and now Tara pulls over and lets him go.
It's a large gap after snow to Brendan Ross, so
we're going to get
clear sailing to the end of the race.
We're going to get another 3 laps here. We're going to get another 3 laps. So Simpson crossed the line with 1:53 on the clock, so that means that he will cross the line with a few seconds left on the clock, and then we will get zeros plus 1 lap after that. So scheduled, it looks like, for 3 more laps by our calculations, although Simpson decides to hold on.
Angle's inching ever closer to that 30-second mark for Andy Simpson. If he gets within that, then if Andy Simpson does get a penalty, a 30-second penalty, then it would benefit Nangle as well as Smith, and the advantage would go back to Smith, and now he's inside 30 seconds, so that may well be a crucial point for Greg Nangle.
Well, you're certainly right there, Stez. We're fixated on Simpson at the minute as the clock continues to count down. Meanwhile, over in GT category, Lewis Wedding still race leader, but Foley still holding down 4th and showing no signs of relinquishing that position. So at this stage, he will continue his binary season, Lewis Wedding, but it will be without a championship trophy in his cabinet. As Simpson's gap is now down to 1.7 seconds, so the traffic has favoured Sam Smith on that occasion. Is there one final push left in the Tin Shed Racing drivers' repertoire? Because it doesn't appear like there's any traffic.
Sam's tyres are better, much better at the moment than Andy Simpson. Simpson's been using up the tyres in all these fast laps, so Smith seems to have got the bit between his teeth and has the pace at this point in the race. Andy Simpson's being very cautious now, because he doesn't want that extra track cut. He's being so cautious.
Here we go.
Angle will not have any fingernails left. He'll be binding them just as I am. Sam Smith now a second behind Andy Simpson for the championship. With Andy Simpson on his last warning for track cuts, he can't afford another one, but Sam Smith has got a taste of victory here. He knows that Andy Simpson is struggling, and if he gets past him here, that is the championship. 0.3 of a second. Is Andy Simpson fuel saving?
Well, he did a 43 that time around, Stairs, and on top of that, he took quite a lot of curb at turn number 1. I'm not sure if he's fuel saving or not, but he's certainly not in a happy place at the minute. Sam is all over him, and there's only a lap and a half to go. The clock has gone 0, so this is the penultimate lap. We'll get one more after this. They've got GT traffic coming up as well in the form of Brendan Ross, so this is all or nothing for Sam now. He's got a lap and a half to go. He's got to make it work, and he looks to the inside here, and here he goes, and the job is done, and Simpson just let him go, literally. He saw the move was being done. Now he's going to stay in the wheel tracks and try and go with him, but the question is, where is the lap traffic going to fall? And it looks like it's going to be okay. Andy, a little bit of a sneak look down there at turn number, it's 11 and 12. Oh, they're touched! They've touched!
And Simpson have both spun! They only have a 25-second advantage over Greg Nangle. What on earth? Smith stays ahead now, it's 20 seconds. Let's see whose fault that was.
Well, we're going to the replay now to take a look at this. We're going on board with Andy Simpson to take a look at what happened here. He laid off him into the back, and Andy just got on the power too early. Andy got on the power way too early, and ran into the back of Sam. So what had happened there was, and Simpson's in.
Simpson's in the pits. Simpson's in the pits.
So what's going on
This is
here?
going to hand the championship back to Greg Nangle. He's run out of fuel. I reckon he thought that was the last lap.
No,
And
has he
now,
run
with
out
that
of
spin,
fuel? Has he run out of
It's gonna
fuel,
give-
or is he touring the lane? No, I think he's giving himself an imposed penalty. He's giving himself an imposed penalty for what he did to Sam.
Nangle's
He's not
almost
stopping.
spun in the final corner. Nangle's had a spin in the penultimate corner. Sorry, a half spin. So now it's so that's cost
Simpson's
Nangle.
back out. Simpson's still in
Yes.
position.
So I think what
Smith
happened.
is still in position.
I
This
thi-
would give the championship to Sam
Oh,
Smith.
Simpson almost got hit by Tara, who's just spun in the second corner.
Well, this is big, big, big news. So it was this man that they were coming up to lap that Sam Smith is just trying to get past now, but he thinks better of it, and he'll find an opportunity to get past Brendan Ross.
Simpson spun out of turn 4. He has 10 seconds to Greg Nangle, but his car, I don't know if he's run out of tyres or something. It's 6 seconds. Sam now comfortably in the lead by 20 seconds. Simpson rejoins the circuit. He only has 6 seconds to Greg Nangle.
Well, we're going to keep an eye on that. Wow, what a last few laps. Who could have written the script for this? Simpson giving himself a self-imposed penalty for hitting Sam Smith, and that's probably the smart thing that he could have done as well. Otherwise, he was going to face a post-race penalty for causing a collision.
I do not think Sam Smith would have complained about that one bit if Simpson finished second.
No, but certainly not. But the stewards would have observed it. But meanwhile, 52 laps gone, almost a full Grand Prix distance when considering this circuit is a 56-lap race, or a 58-lap race, if memory says one of those two numbers is right. Nonetheless, Sam Smith's going to chalk up his 4th win. He'll come to the line. Tin Shed Racing number 20. He somehow managed to keep it on the straight and narrow, and he will win. But the question's going to be, where is Andy Simpson in all of this? Sam wins it. Simpson is still ahead. Nangle's visual, he can see him. Simpson's just got to keep it. No!
He's running the fuel on the final corner!
He's out!
Nangle's back in position. That is absolutely heartbreaking for Sam Smith. Greg Nangle comes across the line in 2nd place. Sam Smith was champion for half a lap, but Greg Nangle in 2nd place will win the championship by 2 points.
And not only that, it means that Simpson does not complete the final tour. He will not be classified. He's DNF'd, and anyway, he's out of it. He didn't. All those quick laps must have been chewing up so much fuel that he didn't have enough to get on with it. Unbelievable. Ozrob is going to come.
All my housemates, but I don't care. That was the most remarkable championship ending. It reminds me of is that Glock in 2008? But
and Ozrob's going to get 3rd. So, my goodness, swings and roundabouts. We failed to mention Lewis Wedding. So Lewis is still on circuit at the minute, just coming down to turn 14 at the moment. We can all take a breath for a moment, but Lewis will win the GT race in class, and unfortunately for him, Foley is going to finish 8th on the road, 4th in class as it stands right now. So the championship rivals or the championship leaders that came into tonight's race will retain their leads and will win. And there's a lot of donuts going on at the end of the pit straight there. So, wowee, I cannot believe it. What a finish to an incredible season.
We won't see a better finish to any race, let alone a championship, Nether Bagsy. That was unbelievable.
It certainly was. And, well, we were hoping for a great race tonight, just purely on the occasion that with Remembrance Day and all, and we wanted these guys to put on a good show, and, well, they certainly put on a good show, but what a finish. What a finish.
I'm at a loss for words.
I don't think it could have been scripted any better. You certainly couldn't have predicted what was going to go on at the start of the night. Well, first and foremost, your race winners in here in LMP2 class. Sam Smith, Stairs called it. You were champion for 30 seconds, and then Andy Simpson ran out of fuel at the last corners. What's going through your mind right now?
I shouldn't have pushed him for that last lap because I could see he's slowing up, trying to count down the clock. And I should have just let it go. I didn't think he'd be that low on fuel. Anyway.
Such is life, I guess, is one way to talk about it. You did everything you needed to do. You won the race. You obviously you had the better tyres toward the end. Bags, you commented that you had the better tyres toward the end. Andy was very, very quick. He had those couple of drive-through penalties. When he started coming through the lane, what did you think? Did you think that you were in with a chance at that point, or what was going through your mind when he had to serve 2 drive-throughs?
Well, I had all mine used up within about 10 minutes of the race. So I was absolutely stuffed. And so I knew that surely at some stage he's going to have to cop one. And he got one. And I was like, every single cut he does after this is going to be another drive-through. So I'm thinking, I can sort of back off, save some fuel, see how we go. And it was working. And then, he ran out of fuel.
Well,
gutted.
I think we're all gutted. We could not have predicted. Absolute hell of a race. We could not have picked it we couldn't have written a script for this. Well, we're going to go to second place now. Greg Nangle. Greg, I need to get your thoughts on this. What on earth did you think when you saw Andy run out of fuel between 15 and 16? You must have thought your Christmases had come at once.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I didn't deserve it to happen, to be honest. Sam and Andy drove so well, and Sam sort of had the championship taken away from him there, really, because Andy ran out of fuel, the poor bugger. I don't know if you were watching me at all, probably not, but I wouldn't blame you. I had a terrible couple of last laps. I sort of backed off and thought, oh shit, that's it. And just cruised around, and then I suddenly noticed that Andy had slowed right down, and I thought, oh my goodness, I might be able to catch him. I'd thrown the race away. I thought, that's it, and I got him on that last corner there, the poor bugger. That's a horrible way to win that. To come second even.
Yeah. Well, as it stands right now, obviously it's provisional until all results are confirmed, but you inherit your second title to go along with your Formula 3 championship. So if that's the way, and it finishes that way, congratulations once again. Driven a hell of a season, 3 race wins, and out of the 7 races that you contested, and you're certainly showing a clean pair of heels to those guys behind you when you need to.
Yeah, thank you. It's a fantastic series, actually. There's, with Sam and Andy and Ozrob, and there's some guys there. We're all pretty evenly paced, and it's a hell of a lot of fun, and it makes me, do my best every race. And I didn't really do my best tonight. I think I had a couple of incidents with slower cars, and I even had a spin. And then I thought at that point, no, there we go, because we were out of sync pit strategy wise, and it was starting to all fall apart for me, and it really, really had, except Ozrob ran out of fuel.
Well,
but it's a fantastic series, great fun. I love it.
Well, speaking of Ozrob, he didn't run out of fuel, but he was out of the race for quite a while there. Rob, are you there? Because you were miles off the pace for a while, but you've come home third by virtue of Andy not finishing the race. What happened to you part of that race? Because you dropped right off the back for a while, and you've found yourself on the podium.
Yeah, I totally ballsed it when the safety car came out. I completely forgotten which lap I'd picked to come into fuel, so I thought I'd filled to lap 20, but it was lap 15, so obviously I was behind Greg after the safety car, and then 3 laps later I had to come in, so that balls me up, and then I'm out-braking myself a couple of times in a few corners. I sort of spun slightly and then got back on track, so yeah, that was my race, but I sort of knew I was finished. I was fueled to the end, so I hadn't seen too many dots going in my little track map. I thought, maybe, just maybe. But as it turned out, Andy was the one that I was thinking Greg, but for a minute, I don't know why. But Professor's always got it covered. But congratulations, everybody! Congratulations, Greg. Awesome racing. Awesome to Sam, Andy. It's really good. It's good that we've all come on leaps and bounds. Sort of proud that I sort of stepped in and at the start, seeing how you blokes are all saying there's only 2 cars on the grid, and so I stepped in and away I went. So I'll be back.
Well, you certainly will be back. We'll see you next season. Great job. You were safe in 3rd place overall in the championship as well. So great effort on your debut season in endurance racing. Stairs, what about the GT guys? Because we had championship battles in both sections, but the binary season continues for the race winner.
It certainly does. Well, the GT3 was the focus. The championship for GT3 was the focus of the start of the race, with Brett and Foley starting from the back of the field. Seems an age away now after all the LMP2 drama. But Lewis Wedding did all he could, won the race. But Brenton Foley finished fourth, and that was all he needed to do to clinch the championship. Well, we'll go to our race winner first in GT3. Lewis, fantastic race, fantastic strategy, and you did all you could, but just the cards didn't fall your way today.
I guess, well, they fell my way in terms of the race, but obviously just the way the season went probably didn't go my way. Obviously, a couple crucial DNFs, and that's all it takes, really. Obviously, short 8-round series. Gave it my all, especially in this race. I think I got the strategy pretty much spot on, pitted when I needed to, and then sort of got myself... I tried holding Foley up a little bit to hopefully get Bolger a little bit of a gap between him, but didn't quite help. And just decided to pit, get myself in clear air, and I knew that Jamie and Tara behind me needed to pit again, regardless of, because in the beginning after the safety car period, I did try and actually just massively save fuel to see how far I could go, but I was going to be 5 or 10 minutes short, so I was just decided to get out of it and sort of pit early, didn't change tyres, and sort of get a little bit of an undercut on them, and then from then on it was just hoping that there wasn't a safety car at a inopportune time, and there wasn't. And then even though I was driving pretty hard, the second half of the race was pretty easy, and then I was just sort of hoping that a couple of things would go my way, but wasn't to be. But Foley, I think, is a deserved champion. He was there every round, put in good results every week, and a deserved champion.
Certainly echo your sentiments there. Well done, Lewis Wedding. Undefeated this season in races that you finished. So a remarkable stat, but second best in the championship. Congratulations on the win today.
Thank you. And obviously looking forward to next season once again in these cars, although I don't know which one I'll be driving yet.
Probably not the Bentley Continental, I'm assuming.
It's in there. It's one of the 3 or 4 cars that I've got my final list down to.
There we go. Well, turning our attention to the championship winner, Brenton Foley. You haven't won a race since round 1, but you've got a few podiums and you've just been consistently picking up points. What happened at the start of the race when you started at the back of the grid?
I've honestly got no idea. During the warm-up, the server kicked me out saying that I had a duplicate vehicle with someone else. And then when I rejoined, I was 18th. So just kind of dealt with it and, went from there.
Oh, well done. We saw you had a kind of a circumspect first lap or two. You were obviously realising the gravity of the situation, that there was 90 minutes until the end of the race, and all you had to do was finish basically in the points. In the top 7, I think, would have got you it. So run us through the race from your perspective. I
wanted to safely, being the key word, pass as many people in the first probably 5 to 10 laps as I could, because I knew after that the field would kind of separate out a little bit and it would just be a lot harder to catch up and pass people. I was hoping that I could get onto the podium for that race, but the safety car came out at probably the worst time, with Greg lapping me about 10 seconds before the safety car came out. So instantly from that, I was a lap down on the top 3. But from there, it was kind of just stay ahead of who I could and keep the car clean and avoid track cuts.
Well, you certainly did that. The safety car effectively splitting the GT3 race into 2 different races, with the guys who stayed on the lead lap, Lewis Wedding, Greg Tara and Jamie Snow. But then I guess from that point of view, you were basically leading the second part of the GT3 race. But Lewis Wedding seemed to be, he mentioned it earlier, backing you up to try and get some cars to pass you.
I did notice that. I can't remember how. I think I glanced the wall on the last corner trying to pass people coming onto the main straight in the first few laps. So I decided under the safety car to repair all the damage, which put me behind a few people that I was racing. And Lewis was in between me and his teammate. And I did realise that he was saving fuel and trying to hold me up a little bit. But it was a great battle. It was a lot of fun.
No worries. Well, congratulations on the championship victory, adding to your list of championships. Quite a few titles you've got now, and we wish you the best for the next series. Just a quick note from Bagsy, whose computer crashed after the race. So just passing on the message that his final words for the season are that it was unbelievable, and we can only hope next season is half as exciting. Heather.
Well, he's certainly right. It's been a hell of a season. We've had some fantastic racing across 8 great tracks and expanding to 9 for next season. And touching on something that Lewis had mentioned just a few moments ago about he's narrowed down his list of cars to a short list, there will be some pre-season testing for the new season, probably in the early part of next year, within January, February next year. All cars in the endurance category are up for grabs, so that includes a car that we've seen as an absolute weapon in a straight line in the Mercedes-Benz stairs. That thing, I expect quite a few people to really give that car a solid working over. I haven't seen it very much in we saw a little bit of it in the GT first season, but we didn't see it in endurance, but it is up for grabs on the next occasion.
Yeah, a lot of people ran that in the first GT3 series. Surprised not to see it in this series. A bit thirsty, but as you say, very quick.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, before we start getting into a few formalities, I want to bring Brock Harvey in here. He's requested a little bit of airtime. Brock, the floor is yours.
Thank you, mate. I just wanted to say really like a massive thank you to you guys for an incredible year of broadcasting. Not only GT3, but everything that you guys have touched has been absolutely superb. So you've certainly helped the group, and you've given celebrity status to some of these guys. So it's a really excellent job by you guys, and thanks a lot. I also want to say a massive thank you publicly to Lewis, Stairs, Nether, yourself, and Scruff, especially, who have taken over the reins of running AMS Oz in my absence of late, and are also doing an astounding job. So I'm certainly looking forward to season 3, where I'll probably be still a bit more racing instead of organising and stuff like that. So it's going to be great.
Thank you very much for the kind words, mate. We certainly do appreciate it, and I'm sure Stairs echoes, you'll echo the same sentiments.
Cheers, thanks.
Well, while we have come to the end of Season 2 of Endurance Racing in 2018, it's certainly been a fantastic season, and a little bit of a look ahead before we go too far into things for what's coming up in the week ahead in the land of AMS Oz. So tomorrow night, Monday the 12th of November, we've actually got another championship to be decided, believe it or not. This time it's the Rookie Cup, so it's down to Brennan Ross and Steve Bolger. They're separated by 15 points in that championship, and there's 2 races on offer at 15 points apiece, so maximum 30 points on the table. Very much still up for grabs in the Season 2 finale of the Rookie Cup. And not only that, we get onto Porsche Cup action on Thursday night, 15th of November, from Interlagos with the chicane in the run up from the final corner onto the front straight. So title things still a little while away from being decided in Porsche Cup, but still some great racing there. And then we get to Sunday the 18th of November, the AMS Oz Canadian Grand Prix. Back to the Formula 1 being on a Sunday night. It's going to be a regular fixture on a Sunday night for the foreseeable future, with the Endurance Series having been ceasing tonight. Well, before we sign off, a massive thanks to all the drivers who have taken part in the WEC series and the GT3 series this year. Certainly looking forward to seeing you guys back on deck for Season 3 of Endurance Racing early in the new year. A big thanks to Brock for giving us the opportunity to do commentary here. Big thanks to Bagsy and to Stairs and to the guys who have filled in or led commentaries so far. Still a few more to go this season, and for all the other categories still yet to unfold, but also a big thanks to Stairs for the majority of the graphics and the video work that he does. Without them, the broadcast certainly looks like shit, but with them, it looks fantastic. And most importantly, because this is my last lead commentary for the remainder of the season, it's an opportunity that I won't get to speak to you probably on as a lead commentator before Christmas, but as I always sign off with at the end of every broadcast, please, and also coming up to the most important part of the year being Christmas, when it's time to spend with loved ones, please always drive safely on the roads, We'll see you next time. Bye for now.